Okay. Welcome to episode 25 of Korea Talk. We're going to run through the super short week of week 7, talk about IEM, give a few MVP of the first half, rookie of the first half, and maybe biggest disappointment or worst player. Or we can do like Long Panda Award too, but we'll see how many awards we give out. And then we're going to do some predictions for week 8 because they also are coinciding with right before the IEM. So there'll be, what is it, 6 games or 8 games?
5 games.
I mean, essentially, you know how it was Oscar week this week, and they got those American, stars out, and they gave them like an award. You were the best, actor, actress, best sound play, best, blowjob attendant. They gave out a bunch of awards to people for all kinds of different categories. Essentially, this is like the Oscars of Korean esports, but more glamorous and with more eye candy. So
and we're not going to give away the best documentary to a not good documentary.
Well, there's also going to be less controversy as well, because after the awards you're going to be like, yeah, they nailed it, got everything 100% correct. That matches not only with my own views, but with the views of the American government and of the North Korean government. So you're going to love it, trust me.
It's also going to be very diverse. We're going to have a lot of diversity in these. Going to be a lot of different Asian players.
I mean, spoiler alert, they're all going to be from Korea. Obviously, we're not going to give like the token best white person award because it's called Korea Talk, not called Everywhere Else Talk. Occasionally, I get messages asking me why I don't talk more about Europe on this show or something like that. It's in the name, mate. It's called Korea Talk. Deal with it.
Hey! Giants just picked up 2 more Koreans. Eventually, we might have to talk about Europe.
Oh yeah, we could talk about that.
Once they become China.
And then we'll also
2 Koreans at all positions.
And then we'll also run over the IEM, our predictions and thoughts on it. Obviously, we'll be slightly not have the best knowledge in the world about the other regions, but we'll give it a go. And obviously, most people here watch most games. I think most of the finals they find interesting anyway. So
I've tried to give RNG and QG a few more views, but they're the 2 kind of black holes from what I've seen.
So yeah, should be a good show. So sit back and enjoy.
Let's jump right into the fun game of the week, which was Rocks Tigers versus Sbenu, and Sbenu did exactly as we expected and died.
Yay! That
was quite the performance. Game 2 by Peanut with the all of the buffs are mine.
Yeah, I mean
that was painful to watch. For like I felt sorry the entire game watching Flawless because if I were him and I'd be playing that after the 4th buff, I would have just gone FF or just unplugged my computer and been like, well, looks like I'm going for a walk now.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that Peanut 11 buffing Flawless, in a way, it actually came a bit to his own detriment as a team, because there were multiple points where his team got dove at a tower or something because he was stealing a buff somewhere. He wasn't there, obviously. So in that aspect, it's not the kind of thing I would say he should try and do against an actually good League of Legends team. But it was very fun to watch and a lot of showboating. And you could tell he wanted to showboat a bit as well, because in the interview he was like, "Oh, I practice Lee Sin a lot because I wanted to show Flawless what a good Lee Sin looks like." But there was a situation where it wasn't right to pick Lee Sin, so I didn't get to play it. So you could tell there was a little bit kind of showboating and sort of a little bit of rivalry between these 2 players going on as well. But I mean, when you get
the first 4 buffs were great for him though. It got to the point where you there's better things to be doing than poaching that buff.
Yeah, exactly.
The first 4 was
the first 4. First 4 are fine. It's once it gets a little bit on, that Sbenu aren't going to try and contest you at the buff, so you're not going to catch them there. And then they would try and dive. I mean, again, it's the most inane criticism ever. You know what I mean? It's just he was definitely doing it to style and not because it was an actual strategy that they thought we need to practice before we come into this. He was like, I wonder how long I can get away with this for.
At some point, bots are not that. It's not worth your time anymore.
Yeah.
And if you're ahead, you just want to get turrets and start sieging with your team.
Yes, and the other thing as well was I mean, when you get a top of the table team that hasn't lost a best of 3 versus a bottom of the table team that hasn't won a best of 3,
you're gonna get some style in.
I mean, this wasn't going to be a close series. You know what I mean? There's no blue shell in this game region.
both games were 24 minutes. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Not only that, but there was the Cogma. They had a Cogma game that won in 24 minutes. Like that was that much of a steamroll that they had the most dumb late game carry, and they completely won before he was even needed to be like, "Hey, I can kill everything and not
But,
die."
I mean, that's also the point of the new Kog'Maw. It's how stupid the W is now, even early game, even if you have
Yeah,
full items.
like
It does
it's pretty.
actually quite some damage.
It's pretty good. Like the new Kog'Maw's not terrible in lane, but then has the most horrendous late game power ever as well, kind of
Yeah,
thing. Like,
Vayne is still worse than lane than Kog'Maw is. So.
yeah, and still has a worse late game as well. So
I'd say Cogma has a better late game just because he can
Yeah, sorry,
use
that's
Ravenous.
what he meant.
Oh, yeah.
that's what I meant. Vayne has a worse early game and a worse late game if you compare them directly as hyper carries.
The abuse he can get from Lifesteal and Runaan's Hurricane is just absolutely nuts.
And the thing is as well is like the buff to Kog'Maw is a buff to the Tigers because they invented Juggernaut as a comp, and Prey is an extremely good Kog'Maw player, and like Kuro is a really good Lulu, and then Smeb's a pretty good Lulu as well. Like they can play around it, and you know what I mean, in a way that kind of. It's like it's not one of those situations where this is this is not one of those situations where it's like a meta shift that could potentially hurt the Tigers. Like this is a meta shift that's a direct buff to them. It just means there's another thing you've got to ban against them if you're on the red side.
Yes.
And
well, also,
Any...
but the stupid thing was they didn't even first pick it.
Yeah, and the worst part is as well is because they're such a good team that. You could potentially give them up the Kog'Maw, and then they would know how to play around the Juggernaut again because they invented the composition, and we saw them last year, many times fall back on it in like sort of key matches and that kind of thing. So they're very confident about their ability to play it, even with their old jungler Hojin.
Were there any positives you saw from Sbenu? I mean, they pretty much got comprehensively, utterly destroyed.
Soul played well for about 15 minutes, which is more than he's played well in his entire career. So he's got that going for him.
They had a good dive in bot lane, but I mean,
well, there was a moment where he solo killed Smeb, and then there was the moment where he and then he had like a good dive, and then there was a moment where he did this like cool flash trip with Poppy that I thought was pretty fun. Again, like I'm not saying he was like amazing in this series, but considering that I think he's the worst top laner in the league, he didn't actually look that terrible in the games. Like there were moments where he was playing okay. So if you wanted a positive out of Sbenu, that would be it for me.
That's not quite the positive. So
you asked for one.
I know. I'm just saying, was like there was anything else you guys saw that was remotely.
It's hard to look good when you get
it was pretty
so badly.
Yeah, pretty comprehensively destroyed all over.
I mean, I don't think this series is an accurate reflection of either of these teams because obviously Tigers aren't going to play like they did against Sbenu. Like, they're not going to try and 11 buff Bengi on SKT, for example. Like they're not mental. Like they're not lost their minds. They're just having fun with the game and trying to make the game as entertaining for the fans as possible, whilst at the same time entertaining themselves. And you know what I mean? Like if game one hadn't gone that well for them and they'd only just managed to win it, obviously they wouldn't try an 11 buff flawless in game two. They would just be like, let's just have let's play a bit more serious. They just, it's like full troll mode is engaged in game two. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that game two was quite the game. Just the way they played it, the way they didn't seem to even care, and the absolute stomp that it was. So, Longzhu KT, which was the the match of the week.
Yes.
I think it kind of delivered in its own perverse way, but it was not how I thought it would be at all.
So I think when we did the predictions for this game, we all kind of unanimously agreed it'd be a 2-0 or a 2-1 to Longzhu.
I believe so, yeah.
No one called KT were going to win. I know that much. And I think it was just a question of whether people were like 2-0 or 2-1 to Longzhu was whether people still thought. The problem is that KT kind of like, because all the other teams in Korea, I think they're all deceptively close, and they're all like, I think they match up to each other like a weird, like, it sounds like a cop out, like a rock paper scissors style kind of, and they can all take games off each other. Because Longzhu messed up their draft in game 2 and 3, it gave them an early deficit, And then like in game 3, I don't think they actually could have won the game with the draft that they had because with the Z, like
Zed was like
it did nothing. And the problem is like not only is Frozen not a particularly like good Z player, he was all right. He didn't really, you know, do anything fancy at any
he had
moment.
almost no damage that whole
Yeah.
game.
The other problem is
bring out the new item, which was allowed Doa and Monty to joke about it, which was a good enough for me. Worth the pick.
The other problem as well with it was like it's just, you know, like so in game 3 he can't ult he couldn't ult the Jace because Jace very quickly got a QSS. You can't really ult an Elise because it's a, you know, it's a tank.
You also missed repel.
You can't ult the Lysandra because it's got Frozen Tomb, and then you can't ult Captain Jack because he had a Arrow because he got a QSS early as well. So, you know, past 20 minutes, you know, Frozen couldn't QSS anybody, and game 3 was pretty close considering there was a Z on the pitch. I'm watching too much football on the map, and so I think again. KT played well in some aspects in game 3. They snowballed it out correctly, and they definitely outdrafted Longsu. But I just think if they'd just gone for a relevant meta mid laner, that they would have won. Now I can see the Z pick working if it's a pocket pick, like someone like Dade, for example, in his prime, who could, you know, reinvent Z and team fight on it really well. That's not Frozen. He's not Mr. Z. He can't, you know. So I don't know what they were thinking with the Z pick, but yeah, they picked Z. They didn't even build a new item either. So
no, he did. He did.
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
Dust Blades of Drekthar.
Yeah. The worst named item ever as well.
Yeah, I mean, the game 1 and game 2 were kind of interesting, but yet disappointing because of how snowbally they both were for Longzhu and KT. And then the third game was just like, we saw Jace top, we saw a Zed mid, and I was kind of like, where's the series going?
Yeah, and as well in game 1 you saw like the best of Chaser, and then in game 2 you saw the worst of Chaser. Like I felt like he watched Peanut 11 buff flawless and was like, I think I could do that. And like they were just fine, you were just invading. I was like, why are you invading this situation? Oh, you're dead. Of course you're dead. No one's gonna live through that. Like so he got caught invading and then tried to go invade again straight away and died again. It was like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
you know.
On top of that, they had Lulu Ezreal, which is a very weird combo.
Yeah.
Like if you want the Lulu, usually you want like, okay, I'm gonna have an AD carry that's gonna take a lot of heat, but be able to pump it out real quick. Not someone who's gonna kite.
Yes.
Yeah, you want someone who's like auto attack heavy and, you know, like pretty vulnerable, so you can buff it up. Not Ezreal, who should be the last one to die in a team fight anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, and then game 1 you had fucking Ashe again. Like I don't get the Ashe pick at all.
He didn't even go Hurricane.
Well, Ashe was played in game 2 as well by KT, if I remember correctly.
No, they played Lucian.
Game 1. They played game 1. Yeah,
game 1 was Ashe.
Oh yeah, Arrow's Ashe. Sorry, yeah.
Again, was a Lulu Ashe comp, which is like, I guess it's a bit better, but it's still weird, and it didn't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, you put Ashe onto a team comp for initiation, not for its damage output. You know, like our initiation's really good.
They somehow thought Furo would do damage enough, but it still makes no sense.
No.
In a comp.
And like there were certain other suspect things as well. Like Someday doesn't look particularly good on Fiora. I don't know why, because he's had good games on it before, but in that he didn't look particularly good.
He did not look good at all. Yeah.
There was a moment where he like got baited into riposting the wild cards rather than the gold card by Coco like doing a trick with the wild cards and the gold card basically. So like threw out the wild cards, knew that he would repost it, and then gold carded on top of that. Now that's a cool trick by Coco and a good innovation, but like somebody fell for it immediately. Like he didn't even sort of, you know, you can see when they got there.
Yeah, you can actually repost it while it's in the air. So I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
You can just wait until he throws it out.
And again, like I'm not going to sit there and bash on the players like individual like little mistakes that they make, because he would probably is going to die in that tower dive anyway. But it's like
It was weird to see him screw up compared to what we've seen him play on Fiora before.
Yeah, exactly. And there wasn't a moment in that series where I was like, oh man, this Fiora plays amazing, kind of just very standard, which is not what you expect of Sunday, considering he should be the best player on that team. It should more be, like it should blow your socks off when you watch him play. And instead it was a bit like, all right, fair.
Yeah, I mean it was an interesting series, but not for the reasons I thought it was going to be. Also, Longzhu, their pick and ban 2 games in a row is pretty atrocious.
Yeah, I touched on that just a second ago, but like, you are right in the sense that like Longzhu's get drafted in game 2, so they ban out Cogmore, Callista, Gangplank. Now that's itself not bad. But then they let the Corki go over, then first rotation Alistair and Nidalee, and then they just pick Poppy and Ezreal, and then finish it off with a Lulu. It's like, you're right in the sense of, what's this comp really gonna do? Like, who's it gonna blow up, that kind of thing? Like, where's the damage coming from? You know what I mean?
It was just very weird too for them banning. I mean, I guess I can get the Callista and the Kog'Maw bans, but
Yeah, the Gangplank is weird since they're mostly
I
the
would
ones that play it.
still ban Corki unless you think it's not going to be picked. Like, it's such a strong mid laner even after the
Yeah.
nerfs.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like, I don't want to ramp on Sunday's Fiora too much because he played it in game 2 and he played it into Flames Poppy and he didn't look too bad. But that's like, he didn't also dominate the matchup or anything like that either. Really, he just kind of like, I don't think Sunday had a particularly good series. I think the issue was more with, and I think that over the whole series, Flame played better, which is why I was kind of a bit annoyed he was subbed out in game 3.
If you sub 1 out, you have to sub all 3 out.
Yeah, according to Longzhu's coaching strategy. I think game 2 was lost based on there was the Ezreal and Ezreal Lulu, which meant that they didn't really have the ability to come back. But B, it was Chase's terrible invades that gave them such a huge early game deficit because he didn't just have no impact; he had negative impact.
Yes, which is.
I think Monty was even pointing it out that you could see if you would rewatch those games on 2 monitors next to each other, you could see the lane pressure in the mini map that Rox gave to Peanut to allow him to go in there and fight 1v1 against Flawless, where you didn't have the same pressure of bided to Chaser to fight against Score. And he just got collapsed and had to blow flash, had to jump over. He was constantly being collapsed on because his lanes didn't have the pressure to allow him to go in there.
There was a bit in game 2 where he first tried to invade Score Elise, and he kind of got almost solo killed by Score's Elise, and then he had to jump. There's a big difference between invading a Gragas and invading an Elise. You invade the Gragas and you've got a pretty good chance of getting away with it. You invade an Elise, and the Elise is a good duelist and can cocoon you and then burst you the fuck down. Those are 2 very different style of jungler. Elise is so it just felt like a weird kind of Chaser moment, really. And then so I kind of got what they subbed Chaser out in game 3, but then subbing out Coco and
Coco's Lulu
Flame.
Performance was pretty fucking garbage, though.
Yeah, but Coco's never been a good Lulu player. You don't put a player like Coco on Lulu. I make this argument all the time. You don't put your star mid laner on Lulu when your AD carry is not amazing. Captain Jack's not amazing, and he's definitely not amazing on Ezreal with a Lulu supporting him. So Coco was set up to be, and again, he had no lane pressure because his jungler was donating buffs left, right, and center.
Yes, and playing versus Corki is not fun mid lane.
Yeah, and again, Coco didn't play great, but what could he do in that situation? He was set up to fail, so he failed. He played well in game 1, to a degree, and he's not Coco of old, but he's still a solid player right now, and is showing good performances. So I can't help but think this desire to swap out all 3 players on Longzhu every time they drop a game,
that's an
or
issue.
win a game even sometimes. It's just very suspect.
So
I hope
you
I
guys
don't
think
see it
that
more in next round robin. You know what I mean?
I mean, we've kind of talked about this of who we would swap, who we would change with those three, because obviously not Frozen, sorry.
Chase.
Fury is coming in for Fury and Pierce, so we're gonna have that bot lane. But is there? We've talked about this before, but do you think that they should be going series by series, or should they be deciding kind of what three should be the main three, and maybe swapping a player in, a player out instead of doing the whole? Like, do you guys see?
I think it should be player by player, but they seem to be determined to do it with three, which is annoying because I think Flame right now is almost every game playing better than Expression, but he is in the Chaser group who's not playing better every game, so he's like, it's a bit of an issue. And then like Frozen Coca as well is a bit like sometimes the one does better than the other one, but so it's annoying. They are grouped in those three forms.
As the season's gone on, you've seen Expression play deteriorate and Flame's play increase. Now there's still not a massive difference between the two of them, but I think Flame has the edge.
I think Flame has at least he's doing well in most matchups.
And I also think that Flame's potential ceiling is higher than Expression's potential ceiling. Like I think that Flame could be a better player than what Expression could be if you put them both in their peaks. So and then I think the same about Frozen and Coco as well. So the big question is Crash and Chaser. Obviously, Crash has his own issues, but at least Crash plays the same every game. So at least in that aspect, he's more consistent. And he was also a rookie player. So if you want a rookie to become good, you've got to give him time to develop, and you've got to give them time. So you can't just keep swapping them out all the time. Yeah. Like the current stance that Longs you have right now, where they swap out like all three. It kind of needlessly punishes players, but it also it's not good for Crash's development because you want Crash to be aggressive and you want him to try and make the plays and stuff like that. If he gets into a situation where he thinks, oh, if I have a bad game, then I'm going to get subbed out for Chaser, then he's not going to be aggressive and want to make the plays. He's going to try, he's going to become a bit more passive and a bit, potentially at least, a bit more stale with his play, which is going to take something away from his quality. Like, there's that old saying about, again, this is third hand, but basically it was an issue with famous basketball player, really young, and always would try and make a really difficult shot and that kind of thing. And the coach telling his teammates, don't tell him not to make that difficult shot because in 4 years time, that is what will make him one of the best players in the world at his position, kind of thing. It's the same.
You can't teach aggressiveness.
Yeah.
But if you try to prevent someone from being aggressive, you will ruin the potential they have of being able to refine their aggressiveness into an actual play style.
Yeah.
Because you could see that exactly with Crash, where it was the best of times, where he would do something crazy and then he'd stick around for just 10 seconds too long and it'd be the worst of times.
It wasn't even sticking around. It was he'd make a play and then he'd run up to the enemy mid lane, enemy red buff, and just die there. It wasn't even the
It's I made that play, so I'm gonna go and do this now. Yeah. It's no, just take that one and pull back.
That is 100% a rookie mistake. That is not something that experience. Score doesn't make that kind of a mistake. Those aren't the mistakes that Spirit and Danny were making in their heyday, and players like that. That's very much I get away with this shit in solo queue, so I'll just do it now. It's just about unlearning a few habits. But Crash is playing really well for a rookie right now. So if you're gonna play Crash, you kind of got to go all in on him, I think. Now I get the issue that Chaser's got a mentality issue, and I don't think it's right to give up on Chase. This is the problem. Longzhu's roster is so stacked, they don't want to give up on any of these players.
It's so stacked at 7. I'd say there's 7 or 8 players I would think are probably absolutely ridiculously good for being on one team, and they could conceivably be starters in their own right.
Yeah, I think
the only other one I don't really think is kind of Captain Jack, because I do think he is kind of taking his hat off and being done.
He has games where he looks okay, but he just plays it in a very sort of supportive way, kind of thing. It's a good victory lap for Captain Jack, but he's not had a particularly inspiring game. I don't know how many MVP awards he's won, but I don't think he's won any. So I'll look it up real quick. I mean, obviously MVP's not the be all and end all because Prey's not won any either, but
he's got one.
He's got one. You know what I mean?
I would say I would like to see My issue with Frozen and Coco is they seemingly are playing both at very similar levels. So at the moment, I really don't think one is significantly better than the other. They don't have super divergent play styles. But what I would like to see is Crash play with Flame.
Yes.
Because they play around Flame a lot where they give him more farm and they allow him to freeze and pick up all that farm and get really far ahead. And I think with Crash, you have that over aggressiveness that can draw attention even further away from Flame. And if you put him on a carry and you give him 100 plus CS, he's still going to be himself and destroy people. And I think that's a huge thing that they are missing by not playing Flame with Crash.
I mean, yeah, because when the original trio was Flame, Crash, Frozen, like that was when that trio, like objectively right now, I'd say that the Flame, Chaser, Coco trio is playing better together and individually, like looks better in their games against Kate. Again, the draft was such an issue in that game 3. It's so that Z pick was so useless. It's different. It's tainted, as it were, and there's not a large sample size because it was the first time that we saw Flame play with Chaser. But when Flame and Crash were playing together, they looked quite good together. And then so I want to see like Flame, Crash, Coco. That's the trio I want to see play. You know what I mean? Like I wanted. So in that aspect, I think it's still there is no second best team in Korea right now. They're all kind of beating each other and pulling victories off each other and stuff like that. There's not even tiers. You can't even adequately tier them. Like
I'm still kind of voting for Jin second best, but it's kind of hard.
Yeah, like because
they're the most consistent right now. But
Jin have their own issues. You know what I mean? Like
I'm still waiting for a meta change. Yeah, I was also waiting for a meta change to see if Jin can still survive that.
Yeah. So
because they're winning by like the 380 carry kind of play with Trace being a huge importance on them. And what happens when you have to go back to only having 180 carry on your team?
Yeah, and then the other way they do it is Trace just goes off and hard carries. There's like seemingly their big 2 win conditions are Trace goes off or they play 380 carries, like, and they let it go to like 50 minutes.
Oh yes.
So, but I mean, regardless, like, I want this Longzhu team to work and I want it to be good, but right now there's the size of their roster is almost a disadvantage because of how much these players are being swapped around for seemingly no reason. It's like they're paying all these players these money, so they feel the need they have to play them.
So the biggest issue I foresee Longzhu having in the second round of the season is they have too many players that are seemingly they can play and be the carry for the team. Like we've seen games where Chaser has completely gone off. Even that series, you had Chaser go off in game 2.
Game 1.
Game 1, the one they won. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Game 1, Chaser got the drop on
Game 2 was in Italy. Yeah.
And then game 2,
he was in Italy and went fucking bizarre.
Yeah, and then game 2, Chaser dropped himself and scored, elbow drived him. Like,
but I think that's going to be that could be the biggest issue, and if it comes down to them missing, because one of the 6 teams right now is not making it, and maybe even one of the 7, because you have CJ who had a pretty, as we'll go into next, had a pretty decent end of the round 1 with pretty terrible roster.
They did drop a game with Kongdu though.
I think Longzhu is really going to have an issue when it comes to finalizing a roster, and I'd still love to see both of these teams pretty much play because they do have 2 teams worth that are good enough to play in Korea.
They would have to split up here.
Yeah,
well, they have Zeus. I mean, they have a rookie support. I don't know how good he is, but again, that's not.
To be fair,
still to see.
Zeus might be all right. And this is purely based on the fact that he was originally signed to IEM, and then he's one of 3 players that they kept on the IEM roster and transferred over to Longzhu. So in that aspect, he's been in the house for a long time. Now I don't know how good he is, but at least he's got that going for him. Like he has been in the house for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Anything else on this series?
Score still doesn't look as good as I expect him to, but he looks better overall.
I still think Sunday is the biggest issue. I actually mostly like that Fly really stepped up this series more than others. I really think Fly had a huge impact. And game 2 pretty easy if you get ahead of Corky, but this Sandro play was very
he really
aggressive too.
abused. Like he was abusive in that Corky game. Though.
That's true. I mean, like I said, he played very well and showed up again, which is what you need to see with Sunday now being worse.
Yeah. And in game 3, he had that really nice engage on the Sandra, which kind of put the nail in the coffin of Longzhu. And it's like he's more playmaking now, which is good.
Yeah, this series he definitely showed a lot more promise than he really for the gold he was given. He actually was able to really do something with it. Yeah. So how much you guys want to talk about this CJ Kongdu? Because we're gonna have to talk about it next week. So
I didn't even watch it, to be honest.
No,
I didn't want to watch it. I have to put up.
We could just talk about CJ's impressive 4-5 first round. I mean, they lost the game to Kongdu, and it was really fucking bad.
So if I was to set the stage for CJ Entus right now, I would say that imagine if you think of League of Legends as like as a sort of ongoing. Imagine you think of it like Game of Thrones, really. So there are the different houses, and those different houses and the different teams.
Oh God!
And the teams have like their own power struggles against each other and that kind of thing. CJ Entus aren't a house, right? If CJ Entus were a house, they'd be like they're a slowly rising threat. Like right now, no one's really sure of what's going on over there. Like I'd almost say they're like above the White Walkers beyond the wall, as it were. Like. At first no one thinks they even exist anymore, and then but slowly but surely we're realizing the threat of the CJ Entus, and then when BDD comes in, he'll reveal himself as the king of the of the undead zombie horde.
No, they'd be House Dairy for sure.
This is my analogy. Get your own analogy. And it's going to slowly, and then we'll realize that CJ Entus are actually the greatest threat in Korea, and will slowly march over and take over everything, unless somebody else can beat Daenerys and blow more up dragons. That's how I predict it going. Spoiler for Game of Thrones if you've not watched it. If you haven't watched it by this point, what are you doing with your life? Go watch it now. Sorted.
And if you haven't read the books, I would say CJ is House Dairy. Look it up. Very interesting house. Except bubbling. Bubbling doesn't exist in the house. Bubbling needs to be brought up to the back.
Bubbling is getting murdered this next episode.
No, bubbling is the king of the wildlings, who you think is going to be like a bigger threat than he actually was. Like he actually was a bit of a joke, and you can just kind of
ignore it. Yet.
Yes, he is. He got burned too.
No, he's not.
Wait, what?
He's not dead. He's alive. Bubbling is the horse that broke a leg, and they've still been using it. Like they've still been using it to plow a field. And just bring him out back already, and just give him sweet bliss.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how I at the moment see CJ Entus right now, as the White Walkers beyond the wall. Obviously, in this situation, the other houses are too concerned with their own internal politics and incest to worry about. White Walker threat. They won't give them the attention they deserve until it's too late.
When they even comes to murder Bubbling in sleep, they will rise to glory.
Yeah, exactly.
Game 2 is really bad because they relied on Sky to actually use abilities properly, and that's not something you can do if you want to win games. So I don't think there's much else to talk about this. We'll be able to talk about it again next week, like I said.
Well, I mean,
they're playing again on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean,
the second day. Yeah.
But BDD turns 18. They're 17 on the 1st of March. So in a couple of days, he becomes of age to. Today even to play League of Legends. Happy birthday, BDD, if you're watching. I know you are, mate, so happy birthday from Korea.
I know you know perfect English, so
they translate this on Inven. What are you talking about? It's like a really big Korean following for this show.
Of course.
It's like you don't even read the YouTube comments.
I don't even go to the YouTube comments. I don't even know where this is uploaded to.
So if you what are you talking about? I tweet out every week. So yes,
I know.
BDD comes of age, so there should be almost direct upgrade there. Again, we don't know how BDD will play on stage, what his nerve issues will be like, that kind of thing. But provided he's not, got terrible nerve issues, he should be at least an upgrade over Sky.
We want to do a quick run through of the games.
Yeah.
Of next week's games, because I mean it is with CJ. They have 2 games this week, as does Sbenu, the only 2 teams that have 2 games, and CJ has some really easy games for BDD to really like to get in and play. Like I might consider putting Ghost in too for a game or
He
two.
can't. He's not of age.
He's not of age. Oh, I thought they were okay. I thought they had similar.
His
birthdays.
is
That's-
March 16th.
Oh, that's a bit disappointing because this is really a week where if I was CJ, I would. Like, this is where you can put in a younger player in a game 2 or a game 1 scenario and really let them
Yeah.
play. So the first game we have on Wednesday is Sbenu Jin, which is probably going to be a Jin win.
It will be It will take 2 hours, and it will be a 2-0 for Jin.
yes, exactly.
Or it will take 4 hours and be a 2-1.
Yeah, but either way, Jin will win it 2-0.
Then we have the game we were already just talking about. We have some Kongnu Monster versus CJ. Just in case you didn't want to see them, like it was only what is it? It was on it's less than 7 days.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a 2-0 for CJ as long as BDD isn't total shit.
No, it's if BDD isn't that great, it's still gonna be a 2-1. I might give it a 2-1 simply because BD, like depending on his nerve issue, if he does falter, you might see that. But I still think this is a win for CJ.
Oh,
Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, I'm not saying if BDD is total shit, then it will still be a 2-1. But I'm just saying I would definitively say right now it's a 2-0.
Yep, and then we have the good games Thursday. We've got 2 really good games. I would say we have Samsung KT and Rox LZ.
Well,
Not probably okay. The second one's not going to be too great, but we get to see Rox Tigers play, which is always fun.
yeah, that's true.
So, what do you guys think about KT Samsung?
Should be interesting. KT's still objectively better, and if they can, I mean, the fact that they just beat LZ means that they could probably muster to win. But
Samsung are the team that I'm least sold on. Like, if you had to ask me which of the teams is going to be in 6th at the end of the originally at the start, like when we saw Jin and Samsung were doing all right, I was like, yeah, Jin will be better than Samsung. Their upside is higher. Now maybe that's just because Samsung have ambition and Jin don't. But like Samsung is almost the least. Even though Jin take 50 minutes to close out a game and all that kind of thing, Jin have a good early game. They get leads early on. They just don't know what to do with it when they get it, which is bizarre. So, like Samsung are the least convincing, of the second place teams, as it were. So, if I kind of think that, but I think So I would say that KT should win it 2-1.
I think they're convincing it. Just at some point, ambition is not going to be enough anymore, and their early game is not going to be strong enough to compete with the other two teams.
And I think that Score should have a bit of a field day in this series because I just think this is a pretty good matchup for KT, sort of on an individual basis. Except with the only way that Samsung are going to be able to do really well is like if Crown really goes off.
Crown Fiesta.
And but with Fly looking better in his more recent matches, I'm not sure what the likelihood of that is because obviously we think about it as 2 round robins. It's actually like 3 days that break up the games realistically because there's no break weeks in Korea because they just keep playing games all the time. First one to start your regular season, last one to end it. That's how we do it in Korea.
Yeah, with what you were saying about Samsung maybe falling out, I think depending on how CJ looks, I think Samsung and Jin might fall out if there's a big enough meta change. I think that might hit Samsung or Jin a bit harder, but I do think Samsung is probably the weakest of the 6, not including CJ.
I don't think CJ could this splits come over Jin or Samsung, but I definitely agree that they're the weakest of the 6, mostly because of fucking ambition.
He really doesn't do anything early. That's the big issue. Is he may have helped them with their the late game shot calling and everything, which obviously he's been playing long enough with enough great teams where he clearly knows what to do late game. It just he still has the mid laner mindset of gotta farm to 20.
Yeah, and I think the other issue as well is that when you talk about how convinced are you that Jin and Samsung will be a strong team by the end of the year? If you kind of part of me wants to trend towards Jin being good towards the end because I think they have better players than Samsung in most roles. and I think that their upside as a team is higher. But part of me wants to say that it's Samsung because Jin Air, if you're a veteran follower of Korea, are the least successful of those 6 organizations. You know, they're the only one that's never been to an LCK final. And I don't think they've ever been. No, they're the only one that's never been to an LCK semi-final. So
they've only gone quarters. They were showing promise. I believe it was with the
Stealths lineup.
Stealths in the last year where they had last time we had
214.
the actual OGN champions.
But what was the problem with that lineup?
They were young.
No,
They had a lot of young players.
I would say the issue with that lineup was there wasn't the individual power to allow them to overthrow teams like Samsung Blue, Samsung White,
I think that was the issue.
SKT1K, Najin Shield, that kind of thing.
I would say yes. They didn't have the man-to-man to go up against them, but they also were a younger team.
Mm.
We've seen since then we've seen quite a few of their players develop into very good players, and I think if you gave them another year of that, you might have seen. I think at least you would have seen them in the semifinals. Probably not the finals, because I still don't think even given a year, if we had another year of that instead of going towards the kind of tournament style they have now, like the LCS kind of style. I think if you gave them a year, they probably could have broken through to semis.
Yeah, maybe, but it's difficult to say which of, because if it does seem logical that it will be Jin Air or Samsung that will fall off. Jin Air last year looked good at times, but never managed to sort of be consistent enough to maintain and be a threat for the entire season or split, depending on what you want to call it. Whereas on the other hand, Samsung didn't really look like a threat at any point during the year last year, and are now kind of coming up very quickly. So it'll be interesting to find out. I still think that it will be Jin Air will be in 3rd or 4th by the end of the split, and I think that Samsung are more likely to drop down into that 6th position.
Yep. So Rocks LZ, assuming 2-0. Everyone okay with that 2-0? I mean, it's Rocks.
Yeah.
Nothing has significantly changed.
Meta hasn't changed. One team still has issues with their roster, so.
I am excited to see potential for Crash to go up against Peanut, because I think those are maybe the 2 most exciting junglers in LCK, especially the 2 most aggressive junglers. So it'd be fun to watch, 2 aggressive people just go off it against each other. But Peanut's team play around him better than Longzhu play around Crash. So in that aspect, I think Peanut won't have a problem wandering into Crash's jungle and killing him, because if Crash tries to fight back, 2 of Peanut's boys are going to come around the corner and fuck him up with him as well. You know what I mean? So you either die solo or you live long enough to see 2 other people come and gangbang you.
I think you get to, if you see Crash versus Peanut, you'll really get to see the difference between a more. I know Peanut's still kind of young, but you'll see a bit more refined version of what Crash may be able to be with a team that kind of is able to communicate around him. You can really see with Peanut and Rocks how coordinated they are, where Crash still will do some crazy, amazing plays, but still get caught out because he's a rookie and they don't have the same level of coordination. And then the last game we have is CJ versus Sbenu, the only game on Friday. And this is, again, a second really rather easy game for CJ. They are playing the 9th and 10th team.
Yes.
So I think this is a really good chance for them to get a winning record. They should end the week 6 and 5.
To get a winning record and to slowly graduate, get BDD comfortable in his new position. Get rid of that sky stench.
How long how long they can maintain their winning record for is another matter, because they've had quite a sort of easy time as of recently. I mean, including that. So if you think about the last 2 matches they were played were Africa Freaks and So they play week 7. They played Kongu Monster. Week 6 they played KT South. So that was quite a difficult week. But then they played before that they played Africa. They've had a pretty.
They both took games off of SKT and Samsung, which is the interesting part. I mean, CJ, the next games they have, week 9 they play 1 game against Samsung, which they could conceivably win that depending on how BDD's performance is. Then they play Longzhu, Jin Air, and then week 11 they hit the Rocks, and they hit Rocks Tigers and SKT in 1 week. And I don't foresee that. That's going to be a real tough.
They can definitely take a game off SKT, because SKT are still You
I
know,
mean, it's 4 weeks out, though. That's the issue.
Yeah, we don't know what
Like,
Yeah.
I still think Rocks will 2-0 them. I could call that week 11. But
Yes.
SKT
Yes.
might find form. There might be some sort of change in the meta. There's enough time there for at least one more patch that
well,
maybe.
there'd be about 4 patches by fucking Riot scheduling, and there was so
Yeah,
But
that's pretty true. But
we're like
I
2
mean-
months into the year and already on 6.4. Like, you know, running out of numbers here, aren't you? Like,
they do have a relatively easy season going into the round 2, though. So I
yeah,
think that's a good thing to see. Maybe CJ can add in, and we'll have 7 really good teams in the league now. Well, yeah, 7 teams that can really compete against each other, and then 1 team that just utterly shits on everyone.
Oh,
And then we'll have Africa Freekas, the streaming team, and then Sbenu, the biggest disappointment, and Kongdu Monsters, the okay high team.
Wait, that's
They're
not.
still,
No, wait,
they're
that's
still
not. That's not in week 8.
no, he was pointing at the
Oh
teams.
yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry.
Like
Yeah.
the top 6
Yeah.
teams, and the leftovers in the bottom.
Yeah. For the record, I think CJ Sbenu will be a 2-0 to CJ.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I think that both CJ games speak of the same. If BDD has some issues, they may falter because of it, but I still think that they'll take it overall. And with how Sbenu's been playing, I think CJ has a really good chance of playing or of winning.
Yeah.
So we've gone over all the games. So now we have personal rookie of the first half.
So this is
And,
the award.
Yeah, some of the awards we're giving out, we may all unanimously agree.
This one is
because
it's too easy.
there may not be as many
Yeah.
players available for the award, but also because there's quite a few people that have made a splash this split so far and made a huge one.
Yeah.
So
this is the award for the most impressive rookie of the first round robin. I would like to point out that a player can win this award twice because they can still achieve rookie of the tournament as well as rookie of the first round robin as well. So I think everyone's pick on this one is Crash.
Yes. It's,
Yep.
I mean, his competition is not very steep at the moment. It gets a lot harder in the second round robin because that's when BDD starts to play. That's when we'll maybe see a bit of Ghost as well, for example. Jin's subs might turn out to be really good, like Blank, for example, might be some monster. We don't know.
The other Blank.
The other Blank with a C, not with a K.
not the SKT blank.
Feel like I'm a girl with an exotic sounding name. Like, oh, you spell my name with a C, not with a K. Like, oh, okay, fair. That's how you spell it. So Blank with a C, not with a K, might be really good. You never quite know. But yeah, so it should get a bit harder in his second round robin for him to win a double MVP award, a prestigious as fuck award that is.
There's also the issue that Sohwan, the person who Sohwan and Flawless were kind of the 2 people coming in that looked like they may be winning rookie.
Yeah.
Flawless pretty much fell on his face with all of Sbenu.
Yeah.
And Sohan got replaced by the carry of Jin Greenwood Falcons.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So yeah, Crash, really good mechanics, really good jungle pressure, really high GPM for a jungler, really high game impact for a brand new player as well.
Yes.
He had previously played on an LSPL team, but we only count the top level as competition as losing a rookie virginity.
He hardly played. I mean, he didn't play that much anyway.
Yeah, and he only played like 2 games as well, so we don't count it too harshly.
So I believe, Crash wins that. Right, Crash? Not Crash. Yeah, Crash is Kongdu. Crash.
Yeah, Crash.
So we have our personal MVP of the first half. Now, I would hope we don't overlap, though. I mean, we probably could.
I don't think. Maybe.
But so who do you guys
I
think
think
is the MVP?
I think I'm the only one who actually picked the real MVP. That's Peanut, but I mean that's my choice. But it's an easy choice as well. But I mean, what he showed in this one, like in this half already, coming from being on the bench on Najin, is really impressive, and he made that team just way more complete than they were last year at Worlds.
Yeah.
His sheer dominance, truly has been
I think
pretty outstanding to watch.
I think Peanut has definitely given
He's reinvented the team.
Yeah,
Like,
he's definitely fixed a lot of the Tigers' issues that they had and made them a really dominant team, and given them this really powerful early game that means that because now they're the complete package. They got the strong early game, the strong team fighting, really good macro late game because obviously they have that historically, really big champion pools. Like they got the whole lot. So
that's the only issue I have with Peanut is that we can't see. Like, I'd love to see can Rock's Tigers still come back from a 10K gold deficit.
yeah,
But we've never been.
I don't think that's
down like 1,000 gold.
That's not something that should be counted against him. Just
Well,
No,
no,
it's not counting against him. It's just like
that's
I'd
the
love to
unknown,
see
isn't
if they still could do that. But he is so dominant that
I think a
they've
team
never
rather,
really fallen behind.
I think a team rather wins than having to come back from 10K
Oh, yeah.
deficits.
The only reason I didn't give this award to Peanut, because people know I love Peanut, like I fucking love him. He's on my birthday card. That's how much I love Peanut. That's not a joke. He is literally on the birthday card that my girlfriend made for me.
I
Look,
like how you
right
still
there.
have it.
It's near to Kanye West, a hamster, and Jerry from Parks and Recreations. So that's how much I love Peanut. Like the only reason I'm not giving Peanut, I think he's the best at his position right now, and even possibly in the world, which counteracts what my MVP is, because I don't think my MVP is the best in the world at his position, or in Korea, or most certainly in the world. I just think that if they'd taken any new jungler, so I'm not Hojin, because Hojin was not good. So I'm saying if they took any jungler who was good, I think that the Tigers would have a similar level of domination. Not the same to the degree that they would be able to style on opponents and stuff like that, but I think that they would, any jungler who had more early game presence would have shored up a lot of the weaknesses that the Tigers have had. And also, it's his warding as well. Like, the warding stats on the Tigers are so low that, in a sense, they can call me out and they can be like, well, we're fucking smashing the shit out of everyone, so who gives a shit about warding? And I'm like, you're right, but... and it is improving over time as well. He's not taking the red smite every game, which is not, as fun to watch, but he is, it does show that his style of play is improving.
Please make sure you use them.
Yeah, and whatnot. So in that aspect, it is improving, but I just feel like they could have brought in any jungler who was an upgrade. So for example, they could have put Crash onto the Tigers.
I knew you were going to say that, but...
So that would be my caveat, you know what I mean?
You know what they need to tell Peanut? Every time he kills someone, just put a ward down on their corpse.
Yeah. And
They'll start warding a lot.
Yeah.
So give him a tombstone.
That's my evidence against Peanut. It was a difficult decision between those two. Between the
you
two that I've
said
got.
what your MVP was.
Well, we're going around and trying.
Wait, before he says it, I'd also say the reason why I did not give it to Peanut is because I find it very hard to give awards to the Rocks Tigers, because I think Gorilla is the absolute best support player in the world right now. I think Smeb is the absolute best top player in the world right now. And as much as it pains me to say is that Peanut is definitely in contention for top 2, and I haven't seen anyone be able to play to the level he's been able to play. But you can't, it's so hard to really conceivably argue that 3 of the 5 players are the best at their position on a single team.
But
in order for that to happen, it has to be significant, and I think Rocks truly have that power.
Yeah.
Because their other 2 players are really just kind of role players.
Oh, yes, they are. They're very good role players.
The Bang Tidy role players, ain't got a problem with it. You need a role player on your team. Anyone who thinks you can make just a team of incredible star players is an idiot. I'm talking to you, Reginald, on TSM. Again, I know you're a big fan of the show.
We'll get there.
But at some point, the MVP, kind of has to come out of the best team, which is...
I understand. My pick will be a bit different, and mine's more for the team. He's the MVP, but it's so hard. I have such a hard time giving Rocks more accolades simply because I think that their 9-0 is enough of an accolade to just be we have not really had competition.
But for me, it's just the fact how much Peanut himself has done. In comparison to what he did.
It's worthy of the pick so far, of the position. I do find it kind of hard to continue to give them more praise, because they don't. It doesn't need to be said at this point. So Sam, you can continue with your MVP.
Okay. So my MVP is somebody who in the show I've mimicked a lot. I've given him quite a hilarious. Some people tell me impression. The whole Maokai, Rumble, Balfour. You can only say 3 words. Sometimes he's described as like slightly chubby and mafia boss. Of course, it's Trace of Jin Green Wings. So when I was thinking about the idea of an MVP award, I was thinking it's down to most valuable player. And yes, some of the Jin players have stepped up in other aspects. I mean, Kuzan's looking better every week, and Winged has improved a lot as well. Che and Pilot are roughly the same. We've always seen them be. Che's a solid support player. Pilot's an iffy AD carry.
Yeah.
I still think he could be good one day, but right now he's very iffy. And also, it's been like 2 years now, mate. So fucking step it up. Like,
Yeah,
when
it's
he's going
been
to
a
become
while now.
good. Like, anyway, so when I think about it, and I think about what Trace does for the Jin Green Wings, and I think about the first like couple of wins, like the win over SKT, and then like some of the other wins as well, is Trace has continually impressed me as a player. His growth has been tremendous as well. Like even last year when he had like a really large champion pool, he wasn't carrying games to this level. He just looked good, and he was a low economy top laner. He's now a carry top laner. He takes the farm and he smashes the shit out of that team fight. That team fight that takes fucking 2 hours to organize. He smashes the crap out of it. And when I watched Jin play at IEM Cologne, there didn't look to me like anyone on this team who was ready to carry the game. And then when I saw them play Longzhu, it looked like the same thing. But Trace was trying, he was just on the wrong champions. And then when they played SKT and he innovated that top lane Graves pick as well. Again, this is somebody who's innovated picks this season as well, has brought new dimension to the thing. And I don't think Trace is better than Smeb, but I do think he does more for the Jin Green Wings than any other player does on their team in terms of how much depth he gives them, because he's a constant threat on that team. And it's more like I'm just impressed that somebody's able to turn around their career that much at such a late stage in their time when they were planning on retiring. Like he said in an interview, I was planning on retiring and be like a player coach, like what Shy is on CJ. But because Soban's not very good, I've just been forced to step it up. Like, what kind of bonkers event is that? Like, your boss you plan on quitting your job or you plan on getting a promotion. Your boss rings you and goes, "Look, I just need you to do a couple more weeks just until the new guy gets the hang of it." Go, "Yeah, all right." You come in, you boss over everyone. Like, what the fuck is that noise? So just based on how much they've improved, how much they improved the team initially, and then how much they've improved themselves individually, I kind of have to give it to Trace.
Yeah, I kind of looked through each of the teams. I already talked about why I didn't give it to some of the Rocks. I didn't think there was a specific player on KT that was really carrying the team as heavy as they were.
KT is super hard.
I knew you'd pick Trace, so I didn't really want to pick the same player again. When you go to Samsung, I guess Crown could kind of be an MVP for his team
as well.
But he got beaten out by my choice because of just the impact the player has for his team. Or Crown may win his team games, but it's not like he doesn't do it with the same fashion. Longzhu, pretty much again, they have a lot of different people carrying
too many fucking players to pick one of them. Like
SKT has actually been playing quite poorly, pretty much around almost entirely. And then we have CJ with their 4 and 5 at 44% win ratio, when we expected them to be complete and utter dog garbage. And that's why Mad Life is my MVP, is because what he has done to make sure Bubbling and Sky don't fuck the game up has been ridiculously impressive. And his ability to basically make sure that entire upper side, I mean, Untara until recently was also a liability.
Yeah.
And they were winning games with a 2-player team. And he has, again, just like Trace has, he's rejuvenated his career. I don't think he's anywhere near the level where he was Godlife, where he was pretty much just like doing insane plays. But he has come back to a point in his career where I never thought I never thought he'd get to this peak again.
Yeah, I would consider him to being like top 3-ish in, well, maybe not. I have to look over all the sports play in Korea right now. He's one of the more outstanding. Yeah, but he's one of the more outstanding supports right now in Korea, which is.
I just want to clarify this for any of the viewers, because there'll be some viewer at home who's going, well, why are you picking Madlife or Trace to be the MVP of their position when you're not even saying they're the best at their role in the position in that league, as it were? It's different because MVP stands for most valuable player. So how much a player, the value of that player to their team. So yes, Gorilla is better than Madlife. Yes, Smeb is better than Trace, but Smeb and Gorilla, their team is not as dependent on them. Yeah, so Tigers aren't as dependent on Smeb and aren't as dependent on Gorilla as CJ and Jinair are on Madlife and Trace, respectively.
They're not even as dependent on that as they were last year. Last year, it was really the Smeb and Gorilla show for quite a bit, where they needed to show up and really set the pace. Where now with Peanut in there and Kuro playing a lot better than he was before, there's carrying potential out of almost every position in that team. So yeah, Peanut has definitely done a ridiculous amount, and that's like, I understand why Peter gave him the award. And if there's someone on that team that deserves the MVP for that team, what Peanut has done in the 9 sets we've seen is unlike any other time we've seen the Tigers play.
I mean, like Madlife was again another consideration of mine. I did think about it. I thought about what he's done for the team and how well they're playing. The only issue we've got with Madlife is his team overall aren't particularly high in the standings, but he's not making any mistakes, and he's not. If they lose, he's definitely not the reason they lost. And when they win, he's objectively a large reason why they won. And also when you consider the players that surround him, he's in a fucking nightmare. His AD carry. His AD carry to start off the split was the guy who was benched in Taiwan
from Flash Wolves.
From Flash Wolves. His top laner struggled in LSPL. His mid laner's terrible. Oh god. His jungler
is terrible. Is objectively terrible.
Yeah, his jungler is terrible. And it's look at the fucking literal trash that surrounds him, and yet he's his bard mechanics have been on point. His thresh is still fucking immense.
He's won games with his Bartle.
Yeah, so Madlife is a really, really a really valuable player, and
it's just the fact that they've been able to go 4-5 set wise and 10-14 in the actual games with this lineup. This is a lineup where 2 of his players were dead, and the third one was just thankfully only mostly dead, and he's kind of gotten up and he can kind of drag his leg and help walk. He doesn't need to be pulled in the cart anymore.
Yeah. The other player I think we were all at least slightly considering was Faker on SKT. Still playing individually really well. The issue is been his champion choices at time with an over.
He also has had some pretty bad games.
Yeah, I mean, generally he's been really good, and it's
SKT right now, it's just weird. I'm just waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, Faker's still in contention to win the MVP of the whole season. Of course, he always is. But at this point, he hasn't been as impactful for SKT as Madlife, Trace, or Peanut have been for their teams. His team looks worse than they did last year.
They've also been splitting a lot of the carry between Faker, Duke, and Bang.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is a positive thing for the end, for the long run. But
yeah, exactly. Whereas Trace and Madlife, that's it on their team. It's pretty much them or fuck all basically. Sometimes on Jinair, Kuzan will step up, and sometimes Kramer will have a really boss game and manage to carry. But generally, it's it's always off the back of those 2 either drawing a lot of pressure or landing the correct ultimates or whatever. So Faker was obviously in a contention for it, and he would be the MVP of SKT, but that's not really a fucking award, is it? We'd have to give an award for we'd have to give an MVP for Sbenu with that logic, and I'm not doing that. So
no, we're not. All right. Time for IEM.
So now we can go into IEM. Unless do you have any other topics on Korea? Or should we just drop an IEM? Do you guys want to start talking about the teams?
If I had to give an award for the worst player of the split, I would give it to Hachani.
Bench Hachani. Hashtag Bench Hachani.
Yeah, you know what? Screw hashtag Make America Great Again 2016 or hashtag Feel the Burn or whatever. Hashtag Bench Hachani. That's what we need to be campaigning for, America. You can spend $2 billion to decide something that's going to be decided anyway. Why don't you spend 10 grand on getting Hachani out of the fucking KT?
No, what's great is Hachani would be decent, Hachani, Dignitas.
Yeah.
Pinyatas. I know you think Kiwi's a joke, but let's give you the Korean joke. And guess what? He'll probably win you a fucking game.
Yeah, and Katie, he's the Korean Kiwi kid. We don't know how he's here. He's spotted for wage theft. Sorry, Kiwi, if you're watching. I know you're a big fan of the show. So that's the meme of this show, by the way. Anytime we say someone's name, we have to admit that they're a big fan of the show. They watch it every week, despite the fact that like 12 people watch this show. So some of them aren't tuning in. Who knows who they are?
All right, I am done. What do you expect?
Yeah, so do you want to do a rundown of the teams? Like, we could tier them, or do you want to just go through groups? Because I mean, they're not all of them are going to play each other.
Let's
Just go groups, like, so go on like the individual matchups, and then who we think will get out of each group, and then if we do, who we think like will win the overall tournament, and then like it's on the show notes to be fair, but like any sort of individual matchups you're excited for. I think that's the most exciting way to do it, if that makes sense.
Yep. So let's start off with Group A. We have Ever versus TSM and Origin versus RNG. So we have Korea, America, EU, and China. Oh, wait. According to Lolly Sports, we have Japan, America, Europe, and China. So,
okay.
Sorry, Ever, you're Japanese now.
They have a Japanese flag forever, really?
Okay, so Ever versus TSM. So Ever now have Key back. Objectively the best player on their team. Really good.
And apparently they got completely dumped today.
Yeah.
Well, yesterday.
So we don't know how good Ever are realistically, but we also don't know how good TSM are.
We kind of know how good TSM is.
Yes,
not very good.
We know how good TSM is. That's not good.
TSM have had a lot of issues lately. They seem to sort of not understand how to play around each other. The players seem to get caught at bizarre positions. Svenskaren's not performing well at all.
The left has weird builds and positioning.
I mean, I'm not
also
gonna.
This week you saw issues with them from like week 1, where they would have Yellowstar would go in and everyone else would be like, "Yo, I'm just holding my dick over here. What am I supposed to be doing?" "Oh right, we're supposed to go in." Like there were times Yellowstar would engage and just be like, "Guy, okay, I'm dead." And you can't have those issues, specifically because they may beat Ever, but I don't see them being able to do anything in this tournament of any significant note.
Yeah.
I mean, beating a Korean team that is not in LCK.
Yeah.
Oh, not good.
The other issue with TSM as well is when you think about like how much money that was spent on this roster and all the hype that surrounded this roster. Like, I mean, let me give you an example. So I have read comments saying that Yellowstar as a shot caller doesn't compare to High. Now, that's complete nonsense because Fnatic last year had better macro than Cloud9.
Yeah, but I don't think that necessarily has to do something with shot calling. I think
but
High on a personal level probably talks more than Yellowstar does in the game.
But you can't judge Yellowstar on this TSM roster because if you watch their show, Yellowstar looks frustrated at every single minute in it, like no one's listening to what he's saying, so you can't judge him. You can't judge a player on judge a player on an entire career, not on just a couple of weeks. You know what I mean?
Well, it seems like the Fnatic, it wasn't just Yellowstar. I think that could be said. I think it was Yellowstar and Rainover.
Yeah.
Were the two main voices because they were the two elder players in that team.
But what I'm saying is when I watched Fnatic when Yellowstar was on Fnatic, it looked like Yellowstar was the unquestionable captain of that team. They all did exactly what he told them to do, and they all looked up to him as a role model, and they all, like Reckless has said, I wanted to be like Yellowstar, I wanted to try to take from his example and be the team captain was. He does not have that kind of respect on TSM. They don't fall in line to him on TSM. And also, he's playing with a massively different kind of AD carry as well. Hate on Reckless all you want. He was very self-sufficient and was not prone to walking into the wrong area at the wrong time. Yellow Star has to spend his entire time babysitting double lift in order to make sure he doesn't do anything stupid. Like,
I may bash on Reckles. Mainly, I hate him simply because of the ridiculous amounts of hype. I think he is a great cleanup AD.
yeah,
But he's not a person who's going to put bitches in a backpack and go, get in, I'm carrying you fools.
Always
and
double
he was
tries
able-
to do it and fails.
Yeah. Well, he used to be able to do it like 3 years ago.
Yeah, but I say now he
Before.
tries it, but it doesn't.
Yeah. And you can see that in both of their plays where Yellow Star is allowed to leave Reckles, whatever, by himself in lane and play more of the gorilla-esque support where he roams.
yeah.
And now it's almost like he has a chain attached to him and he can't go too far out or else you just get destroyed. I mean, even look at the game against Liquid. I think that's the perfect game to watch if you want to see the significant issues with them, is that they have issues following up on each other's plays. It seems they almost have trust issues. Svenskeren can go invisible very often. And then you have Double Lift, who got completely destroyed, where it was obvious there was neither lane got experience out before lane began. And you should, at this point, you should calculate. I mean, if you watch OGN games, you watch any game, you see the other team know that's the last CS they need. They're about to hit 2, and you see both of them back away. This time, fucking Piglet walked up on him, shot him in the face, turned, killed the minion, got 2, and then just fucking went all in on him.
Those are base mistakes. That even as Hulk, you know you can't fucking stay in them anyway. The opponent's gonna hit level 2.
Yeah. Like,
It just their mistakes are those tiny issues where usually TSM falls apart at like 15 minutes in, where they win lane, win game, or they kind of go even and they stumble around and hope the other team throws it to them.
I don't want this. I don't want this show to become like the TSM hate show, which it very easily could become.
Oh,
because
there's
everyone-
other teams I'm going to jump on.
So yeah. And I also don't want the show to become like Western hate show or something like that. You know, some Western teams I like. Although it might become that. It might become that. Who knows? What I would say is that, and I don't think Ever are good right now. And based on their current form, they're not even playing well in Korean Challenger. But I also think TSM aren't playing well either. And I think that like TSM play in a more competitive league. Like obviously, I'd like to circle jerk and be like, "Oh, yeah, Korean Challenger is much more competitive than the NALCS." It's not.
No,
Like,
really not.
no, I know. You know. And you know what? This panel has probably spent more time watching TSM than watching Ever overall, which is bizarre for us to admit, and that's called Korea talk. But apparently,
Yeah, it's not Korean Challenger talk.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Korean Challenge is pretty tough to watch.
Yeah, I watch more LSPL than I watch Korea talk. I watch Korean Challenger, but I do think that last time Ever played on foreign soil, they looked good, and they, and there are certain aspects. So unless Ever have like massively downgraded and massively fallen off, and also like when Koreans go international, there's this weird thing. It's like this mentality thing when they get into their head, this national pride of Korea, and they kind of step it up a little bit in international competition. Typically, again, there are exceptions that prove the rule. Samsung, Ozone in Season 3 World Championships, the Tigers last year at IEM, Korean teams that have tried to style on foreign teams and gotten upset. But typically, Koreans go in with the mentality of we need to do well in order to prove Korea's strength or something like that. So I will give this best of 1 to TSM, but this is actually really difficult for me to call. And I think that TSM have better players. And I think that TSM at times look like they're fixing their issues. So, and I also think that Bjergsen, if there was one team in this group that he could carry against, it would be Ever. But this isn't sort of, this is really close. Like, this should be a fucking one-sided stomp. It's an amateur team playing against a professional team. And anyone who sits there and goes, oh, the same amateur team beat SKT. Yeah, that was 4 months ago on a brand new patch after all these teams have been to Worlds and not be bothered to practice anymore.
After that team had won Worlds and probably just dicked around and like, hey, we won Worlds. We're going to practice? Fuck no. I'm going to go out by the pool.
No, I'm going to go fuck a prostitute, deal with it. So I assume that's what people do when they get a lot of money. I've never had a lot of money, so I don't know. It's not something I would do. If my girlfriend's watching, that's not something I would ever do. But obviously, I wouldn't do that. What happens in Amsterdam stays in Amsterdam. But my point is that, you know what, this shouldn't be a close match. It's a Korean challenger team versus a North American professional team. One of the most prestigious esports brands in the world, objectively, TSM, when you think about it, you know, in terms of like...
At least in the West.
Yeah, so, but this is difficult for me to call, but I will give it to TSM. I'd say it's like 60-40 to TSM. But if TSM...
Yeah, that's really
If TSM... The issue I also have as well is the mentality of players going in. So if TSM go in with this mentality of we should absolutely win this game, like these are amateur players, we're going to style on them, that kind of thing, they're going to get wrecked. Like, you know, so they need to go in with the mentality of like they're playing to win just as much as we are. We need to go in with the right kind of mentality. And they've got that coaching problem as well going on TSM as well right now. So it's all over the shop.
Yes. I'd say that your 60-40 is pretty fair. My concern is that TSM's best player at the moment is Hanser, and you have IEM, or you have Ever. Sorry, not IEM. You have
Crazy.
Ever's best player is Crazy, and he is very good at baiting.
This is not Key or Loken.
I think Key and Crazy are probably their two best players.
Yeah, that's fair.
Crazy is very good at pulling aggression towards him and being able to escape or get kills or trade from the games I have seen of him. So I think that may be an issue with TSM, is that if we see Ever kind of focus, because it is the best of one, if they really like focus on one lane and dump on it, they can. But I do think TSM, man for man, if you look at all five, like the 5 rosters, they should just simply be able to just beat them through sheer strength. But I do think it's 60-40, maybe even a little closer than that, and it really shouldn't be. This should be like TSM should walk in and
60-40 is already
stop
close
to get to it.
It's a miracle that Ever are at this tournament. It's an actual miracle when you think about what they've had to do. They had to go to Kesper Cup. Now, yeah, SKT and Tigers weren't showing up to that tournament, and KT as well, because obviously they wanted to break off. But like Jin Air, Samsung, you know, they ran their way through a tournament. No one predicted they'd do even at all well, and then they ran through IEM Cologne as well, beat Xiaogu, and now the best team in China. Like, so historically, they've had the ability to show the fuck up, but are they going to do it today? I don't think so, personally. But I will say I've got £10 on Ever to win because I got odds of 12-1. So
12-1. Okay.
So I put a tenner on that, so I win 120 quid if Ever wins.
That's
I'd also like to point out I just predicted something opposite to what I put my money on because I took good odds. So
yeah, I would put money on those.
I would take those odds too.
Fingers crossed I'm wrong.
I would take those odds too, but if TSM loses, it's gonna be real rough.
I'd like to say I made that bet with slight inside knowledge, because when I made the bet, I knew Key was coming back, and obviously the betting agency did not know that Key was coming back, and then so I made the bet with inside knowledge.
Well, let's hope they don't watch, because they are big fans.
But I've googled that, and that's not legal to do. So come at me, Bet365.
Oh gosh, all right.
Because I know the Bet365 CEO watches the show as well.
No,
yeah, of course he does. Loves it. Can't get enough. He's been texting me. Oh, when's the new one coming out?
Oh god. No, TSM should win, but I mean their team play in general has been so poor that, and it's the best of one. Like if they just screw up early game, like within Fates or if they lane swap or whatever, and Ever just gets good lead, they could just totally crumble and Ever could beat them up. But individually they're supposed to be better there, so. If they just played calm and mechanically just try and outplay them, I think they could just beat them straight through with team fighting. And
what I will say,
you also have the issue that Doublelift may get caught out like 30 minutes into the game and do death timers. It's like, end of the game.
Yeah.
What I will say as well is this is potentially one of the most exciting games for me, because if TSM lose, the amount of salt that will just be all over the I'll be £120 up, and then I'll get to bathe in salt all day long. Oh, that'll be so beautiful to do. But TSM probably are going to win.
So Origin versus RNG.
Yeah, I haven't watched RNG like at all, but Origin right now is not
Yeah,
like
educated then.
yeah, no, fair actually, but at least
Royal Never
I
Give Up is the team with Looper, who looks like he
Like
has
Mata.
finally found the robot, the pilot for his robot, and is making great
Yeah,
plays
but
like once more.
I
It's
do have
almost like he's electronically controlled by Mata.
I've heard and read something, so I would clearly give this to Royal Never Give Up. It's just a stupid name. I can't help it. I hate that name so much.
Well, that's because Royal Club failed
Yeah,
and had to
yes.
purchase a team
I
and
know,
couldn't
I
just
know. I
name
know
it
how
Royal
the
Club.
fucking name went. That's why I hate it so much. Origin right now is like still in a. They're having similar issues as TSM. I mean, different, but they're also that good team that should supposed to be much better. But they didn't invest so much in getting a super team. They just got one different player, and for some
So,
reason, a lot
I
When-
know
more.
there's
when
a person here who's fans with SOAS, but I wouldn't
friends.
say he's tilting off the fucking face of the earth. But there certainly seems to be an issue where either he just doesn't give a shit because he knows it's spring season, and it really is irrelevant almost. And they could be coasting and taking this off.
No, I
But-
think the Origins issues aren't a mentality issue. It's more of a like a communication issue. Is what I again. I haven't spoken to SOAS about the individual issues. I'm not going to hassle him about that. Like, oh, can you tell me why you lost that game, mate? Like, I really want to know. Like, obviously, it's not. I'm like, you know, like I consider him a friend. I'm not going to fucking dick to him. But I will say, like, I like Origin a lot. I really do. But I actually think in terms of talent, this one actually kind of goes to Royal Never Give Up because I think Looper and SOAS are like Looper has obviously had a more successful career in terms of he's won the world championship. SOAS has been more successful over a long period of time. But when I think about it, like MLXG is a pretty good jungler. I've watched a few Royal Never Give Up games. I've watched their last 5 best of 3s, so you know their recent form.
Going to be the most disappointing thing about watching Royal Never Give Up play is that MLXG is going to come in, play pretty well, and then come next split, MLXG is going to be benched for Insec.
No, it's not.
MLX2.
That's not definitive. No one knows exactly what the future is.
MLX.
They might
It's
just
likely.
they might just sell Insec as well, for example.
That'd probably be the best because that kid's fucking going nuts.
But the other issue as well is like so, and then the mid laner of Royal Never Give Up, whose name escapes me at the moment.
Is it Zhaohu or Sask?
They both are on the lineup.
Yeah, it's more Xiaohu, from what I remember. So like Xiaohu's all right. He's played on that team for a while. He's played with MLXG as well for a while, just on because they were Royal Never Give Up last year as well. It's just this year. Last year they were an all Chinese team, and now they've signed big name Koreans to their roster. But then when I think like
Big Looper is big name Korean.
but then like Wushin's pretty good as well. And then like Wushin's Vayne as well is really good. Now Vayne's not out in the meta, but Wushin is a guy who in a best of 5 against team when he was on King against Snake picked Vayne 5 games in a row just for the fucking fun of it. And like there were a couple of games he really went off on Vayne. So
yeah, if you lane well with Vayne, you can do stuff with that champion.
Yeah.
It's not horrible.
No, I think Origin are going to come into this tournament better than what they've been looking in the EU LCS because I think that they'll want to win it more than they will want to win regular season games in the EU LCS. And I also think that if there was a time they were going to kind of step up and sort out a lot of their issues, this would be it. You know what I mean? Like typically the players on Origin are pretty good LAN players. You know, they've all done pretty well in like sort of because this is a LAN tournament, not a league-like tournament. They've all done well in like, you know, a LAN-like tournament before. I am going to give this to Origin just because RNG have. There was an interesting quote I heard from Kelsey Moser, which said that no Chinese team has ever played as well in China as they have on foreign soil. Now, I'm not sure I agree with that completely because I think, like, you know, World Elite at times look pretty good and whatnot. But historically, Chinese teams don't look as good in foreign competitions as they do in China. Now, you can say, oh, well, that's just because Chinese League of Legends isn't very competitive. And I go, right, well, that's obviously a fucking inane thing to say. It goes a
I
bit
think
more, it's a bit more complicated than that. We have our eye test and we can look at the quality of a League of Legends game subjectively as well as in context. I think that RNG, even if RNG win this best of one, I don't think RNG will get out of this group. That's what I would say. So I would say, if you asked me who's going to get out of this group, I would say Origin in first place and TSM. Sorry, no, actually, hold on a second. RNG are going to get out of this group because the only competition is TSM.
Yeah,
So,
what the fuck? I was like,
yeah, sorry.
are you serious?
Yeah, sorry. OG will get out in first place. RNG will get out in second. So regardless of who wins this first match, I actually think it's kind of for the birds, and that as the tournament goes on, Origin will find their form and overpower Origin.
I have the same thing except reversed. I think RNG are going to be the one that will come out and win, and I think Origin should be good enough to be able to beat Ever, unless Ever comes back and they're playing phenomenally, which I have no real reason to believe. I see Origin being able to beat TSM because I think they are more coherent of a team than TSM, and I think TSM's issues are significant, unlike they've had for the past couple years where they've had very similar issues. I think their issues are truly pretty big in their communication, their teamwork issues, and I think Origin is going to lose to RNG, and RNG is going to go out first.
So you think so? But everyone here thinks that OG and RNG are the teams that are going to get out of the group.
I do think that.
It's just a question of
I
which
think
order.
Ever could, but I have no reason why to
It's hard to just
say that.
Yeah.
So
I would. This is
I
one of those,
hope they do because they're Korean and it'd be nice to see that. But
this is one of those weird things where, like, sometimes I'll make these predictions and they'll seem strange. So this is another example of one of those. I think Ever are more likely to get out of their group than TSM are, but I think TSM will beat Ever. So what I'm saying is if I'm wrong on the prediction that Ever lose to TSM, then I think Ever have. So if Ever can beat TSM, I think they can get out of the group. I don't think they'll beat TSM. That's what I'm saying in this situation. Does that make sense?
I 100% agree with you. You're saying Ever has a better chance of making it out of the group than TSM does, but you think TSM will beat Ever.
Yeah.
Because Ever should not be able to make it out of the group
at all.
But Ever has a larger upside than TSM does. So if they come and they come into play and it's like they were before.
Again, Ever has a large upside right now in this moment. I think that potential upside right now. I think that TSM, if you gave both these teams a year and you had like the best coaching staff in the world or whatever, I think TSM could be a better team than Ever. I just think that based on the circumstances that we have in front of us.
At this moment, this week, TSM is still coming off of the past 2 weeks. They've lost. They've gone 1 and 3.
Yeah. So if I was to give like the odds, to say how certain I am a team's going to out of the group, I'm like Origin 90%, RNG 80%, Ever 20-30%, and then but I don't even know. They have to add up to 200, and then TSM like 10%. You know what I mean? So. Like basically, what I'm saying is I'm more confident that Ever can get out of the group overall. But if looking just on the individual matches, I can't imagine Ever winning a game. But if they can win games, I think they can do it all. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I believe the way the setup is that winners bracket is best of 1. So the first games should be best of 1s, and then the 2 winners will play in a best of 1. But the losers bracket should be best of 3, according to Carmack's tweet.
Yeah, no.
So the losers say TSM and RNG win. They will go on to play a best of 1 against each other, and Origin and Ever will play a best of 3, and the winner of that plays a best of 3 against the loser of the RNG TSM game.
By the way, we will write down all these predictions, and then in our IEM recap episode, we'll like keep a tally of how many predictions people got correct, and then that way, and then someone will inevitably win the IEM prediction contest that we have going on this show. So
the winner gets to play Lulu for a game.
No, the winner. Well, the winner will
The
winner will just be crowned as the IEM prediction champion. But I just think about it this way. So if I say, and so I say Origin and then RNG. Peter and John say RNG and then Origin.
You think you agree with me then? RNG and Origin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can move on to Group B, to the 2 teams I'm really going to light on fire. and that would be SKT and Fnatic. I think SKT and QG are going to be the two teams to make it out, and I think Fnatic will be the first one to be dropped in the losers bracket. So I think they're going to lose the first set, and then they're going to lose against CLG.
CLG looks better, dude. I mean, it's
I
hard
think
to say 'cause it's
CLG
NA,
has
but
the ability to split push, and that's something I don't think Fnatic has the
Yes.
ability to, the team ability to work around that. Smithy has been playing dumb champions in the jungle that allow him to do more than he really should be able to. They seem to understand how to abuse. It's called Zerat Portal, not ZZ. We're not putting on sunglasses, okay?
I call it
for all the people that got that joke.
I call it Zerot. Oh, sorry, Zerot. Yeah, I suppose Zerot.
Zerat.
Yeah,
It's not ZZ. We're not. Yes, reference game on point with ZZ Top.
Zerot. Zerot. Yeah.
So we have those two teams, I think, and my biggest issue with Fnatic is that they don't seem to be able to play anything outside of tanks. And if you give Zion Spartan, fuck you, Darshan, a ability to play in lane and really get fed, I think he can pretty much carry the game for them. And the issue I have is you have Stixay and you have Reckles, who I think are very similar in style. So I don't really see an issue going to change. I said they're both kind of clean up AD carries.
I'm so triggered right now. I'm more triggered than a Tumblr feminist reading men's rights. Oh my god. Finish your point before I explode.
That's all it is. I mean,
okay, so CLG have looked better in recent weeks. Yeah, they got that win over Immortals, so everyone fucking.
No, I don't think they.
No, it's not even just that. I haven't watched all of them.
I don't think they're great. They just have a play style they can win with.
But by the way, is everyone in this situation saying QG beat Fnatic and SKT beat CLG?
Yes.
Okay, so at this point, we're kind of arguing like, who's going to lose first?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I said
Yeah.
SKT. I think even SKT in this beaten up shape is going to be able to make it out first or second.
Okay,
I
so
think this group is the easiest one to call. It's QG
Who's gonna get
SKT.
fucking dumped by
The issue is who gets first, who gets second.
We'll talk about SKT and QG in a bit more detail after we talk about the CLG versus Fnatic, because it's not very often we get to talk about Western teams on the show, and I know people love it when we talk about Western teams. I think Fnatic are going to beat CLG, and I'll tell you why. So, man for man, Fnatic are much better than CLG, with the exception of Afrobu.
Who is their support? Klurg? How
Klud,
do you pronounce?
it's Kludge, I think. Or Cly, that's it, Cly. I wanted to say
I don't
Kludge,
fucking understand. understand
Swedish.
Yeah.
So, you know, based on the fact that I'm European, I have more knowledge of Swedish pronunciation than a filthy American does.
Based on the fact that I live in a state where we have more guns than like humans, cars, or pretty much anything, I'm pretty sure I can just go outside. Yeehaw!
So when I think about this matchup individually, you know what? Darshan tilts me as a player so much because
oh god, he
yes,
does.
he does.
He pisses me off every game.
Because
they win with it. That's the point.
My problem with Darshan is when he split pushes, right? Is there are multiple times where he could just stop split pushing, go to the team fight, destroy the team fight, and then the game would be over. He split pushes for the sake of split pushing. I feel like now. I don't know why no one's ever told him this in, like, you know, as a coach and that kind of thing. Apparently, in that Weldon Green interview, he said he's one of the most workable players he's ever had in his life. Really? Like, he doesn't seem to listen to any... like, one of the easiest coached players ever. He doesn't seem to understand the concept of adapting as a player. He hasn't really changed as a player. He's always split pushed for 40 minutes and then, you know, whatever. Now, my issue is
40 minutes. He's always split push for the entire game.
People rag on Gamsu a lot. I think Gamsu's a lot better than people give him credit for, and I think that the level of top laners in Europe is a lot more stacked than the level of top laners in the NALCS. So I think like Daishan might look good in a small pond. Gamsu's out there in the not with a shark den. He's more like in a piranha den. And he's got, you know, he's got to fight against the elements a bit more. And I think that, you know what, like Spirit has been playing better recently. He's been playing better on on early game aggressive junglers, which is what I like him to do. So his Lee Sin looks really good, for example. So provided you have a situation where you put Gamsu on something that he can boss a team fight with, I think Fnatic can just take the team fight over and over again. Where Zion might get a turret, then Fnatic have fought a 4v5. All 5 of them are up, and then they just take the entire game. Like, so I can understand why you might think, but like Stixay, for example, he is not a good player. Please stop calling him a good AD carry. He's statistically one of the worst AD carries in the LCS. Like,
serviceable. Like,
I don't even say he's that.
he
Like,
can play AD.
Reckless is good in lane, and I think that this is a series that could very easily just be decided in the laning phase. And when you think like what happened in the OG versus CLG final of IEM Cologne, no, was it Cologne? San Jose, that was it. CLG just lost the laning phase 3 games up straight away, and then they were out. Then they were out, kind of thing. Like they didn't even get a chance to show that they're like because they have quite good macro as a team, but they never even got the chance to do it. They just got fucking crushed in lane. It'll be the same thing. Like we also forget like Forbidden will be the best player on that in the game, and like provided he gets on the right champion, he could just carry the entire series. Like I was worried about Forbidden carrying against the Coup Tigers. No, I'm not. I'm not. Of course, I'm worried about. Of course, he can carry against CLG. So, like, just based on the individual talent and the laning alone, I think that like CLG would have to do some absolute lane swap fuckery in order to get out of this series. If it goes to standard lanes, CLG will lose.
You want to have some insight before I rebut some of his things with my thoughts, Peter?
No, I have some sort of points in pure laning phase strength, but saying it's a series, it's not best of 1, so I CLG can definitely. I think they have been able to, like, even against better teams like Immortals, be able to stall it out and do some stupid split pushing. But having to win 2 games with split pushing might be hard, but they could do it. It's not impossible.
So my main 2 things I had to bring up were both. I'm not crapping on Gamsu. I think he's a good player. I think Fnatic need him to play a tank to really get going, and I think that's the issue. Is that if he plays a tank, Darshan should be able to get enough CS and get enough of an advantage, because of the fact that he'll have a very passive, easy lane to kind of get ahead enough where there's no one left on that team to be able to split push. Who he has been improving, I still don't think he's great. But he's been improving throughout the split. He's shown a lot more promise.
He couldn't have gotten worse, could he? Like,
pretty true. He literally probably could not have gotten worse, or he'd be sitting here where I am, not playing the game and talking about it. The issue I have with the Stixay Reckless matchup is that I have some golden rules I have for teams and regions. In NA, its lane phase is irrelevant. I don't care how hard you carry. Shits can still go insanely stupid at Baron. And one of my EU ones is never count on Reckless to carry you.
Never.
And that's my issue, is that you can give that man, unless he's got a huge insurmountable advantage, I don't see him pressing him. It's been my issue with him for the entire time. What people say is that he's a carry. No, he is a terrific cleanup.
But I don't think in this
not
match.
Going to carry.
I think in this match he's not even required to carry, because I think that Forbidden Spirit can overcome the differences. Because when you think about the difference in individual skill, especially at players' peaks, it is a large difference between Xmithie and Spirit, and a large difference between.
Spirit was playing at his peak. I don't give a shit about anyone else. I would say they get the win. So,
and you know what? Spirit did look better in his most recent week on the Gragas, on the Lee Sin. Like they played pretty well against HTK. And yes, HTK had a lot of issues with Forgiven getting deported to Greece to go, being a military for
deported, or like you have to come back, or
come back,
whatever.
You lose your ability to have nationhood.
I just
put him in jail or something.
Just you know what it's just for me, like, there's just too much of an individual difference in skill there, realistically, is what I would say.
I mean, I could see that. My issue is I just think they're going to put so many eggs in the Darshan basket where it should work. I haven't seen Forbidden. I haven't been able to see every EU game, but I haven't been able to see Forbidden and Spirit kind of hard carrying the way I was hoping to when I first saw saw the lineup. I was like, oh man, these two are just going to go, like, destroy the other mid and jungle, and I really haven't seen that. So at the moment, I would say I would give it to CLG, but again, I wouldn't give it too much. Like 60-40 would be the highest point, maybe like 55-45. I'd sit around there for CLG.
That's a very lame quote right there. You're basically saying, "Oh, I think CLG is going to win, but I don't know." Like,
No, it's not. No, at this moment, I'm betting. I'm not betting. I don't bet, but I would say I'm
That's what you
saying
were
for
doing.
the purpose of our IEM bet thing, I'm putting CLG as the winner for that.
do you want
But
to
I don't think I would not be very surprised if Fnatic won.
make a
And no, I'm
Lord?
not putting money on it.
Do you want to make a Lord bet on it then?
Well, the winner of the IEM thing becomes the Lord. Okay.
Oh no, I say no because I think in this situation, I just want to make you a Lord bet about CLG versus Fnatic.
Sure, I guess. Well, fuck it, whatever. I
Yeah,
don't care.
Lord bet. There you go, done.
It has no impact on my life, so I mean, I can understand that they'd win, but I don't. I think CLG's gonna win, but I don't expect them to. I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, so you
I
guys
mean,
want to take a quick 5-10 minute break, come back.
well, after Group B, realistically.
Oh right, yeah, we have. I forgot we have the two teams we thought
Actually,
would make it out.
Yeah, actually to talk about. Yeah, so the
So-
SKT versus Chaogu Reapers.
Yeah, so we both
matchup.
think SKT Chaogu are going to be in the winners bracket.
Yeah.
So, Peter, do you think which one's going out first?
You mean
Which
winning?
Which one's going to take first place?
Yeah. So you mean see, that's the issue with me not watching Chaogu, but because I can't really rate them and how they would fare against SKT too much.
So pull out Tom. Tom's going to be
Yeah.
there.
Tom won't play.
Yeah,
Tom's not going to see
that
the
would
light
be
of day.
funny as well.
They'd have to play Dade as well then, so they're not playing.
I'll just.
I really want to see Dade versus Vegas. Not happening.
That'd be fucking amazing.
Dade will be at home bowling when Chaogu are at IEM Worlds.
Well, I would give the SKT just the fact that Koreans are always pretty fairly good in when they go to the lands, and just I think that SKT can put up the muster to actually win this year. I mean, even when they looked bad to 2014 All Stars, they still easily stunned all their opponents. I think it's they're not horribly bad. They just have some identity issues right now, and I think they could just come up with a good enough way they want to play just for this tournament to win it and to straight out beat Kaiju in a best of one.
I also think that this tournament has the capability for being a bit of a kind of a revitalization of SKT. Like if they can go there with the right mentality and win, then they could come back to Korea with a really lifted mentality and a really lifted spirits, and then go on and do really well in Korea. Like we all kind of think that they're going to do. They're like this time bomb. When are they going to go off? At some point they've got to go off at some point this year. It's SKT. We were thinking that all the way through. Well, some people were thinking that all the way through 2014. I knew they were done, but
Stop taking my dad.
But I will say that it's just that Doinby versus Faker matchup. It doesn't because I've watched Chaogu a lot, and Doinby's looked better in certain aspects. His roaming is really good and all this kind of thing. What does that is he still not likely just to get pile drive in the lane? And then Duke versus V as well. Chaogu's laning isn't for me particularly good. What's good about them is they still get deficits and then fight their way out of the deficit in a team fight. But SKT are clever enough, I think, to see that to understand how to Chaogu's strengths and avoid if they don't think they can win the team fight, avoid it. And if they think they can win the team fight, take it and win it. Because SKT have shown themselves to be a competent team fighting team. And also that caveat about how the Chinese teams are really good at team fighting and they might just manage to out team fight the Korean team. I've never seen that happen before.
The only time I saw that happen was OMG SKT season 3.
Yeah, and that was in one game.
It was one game.
Yeah, and every other time, pretty much if a Chinese team's beating a Korean team, it's because they bodied them in the laning phase, like with OMG, Najee White Shield, or it's because the Korean team got horrendously cocky and then really tilted. And again, like the Tigers did last IEM World Championships. So I don't think
you can say they got beaten by a Korean player at that point, really.
Yeah, and they also the other big issue was there was such a mismatch in the jungle with Hojin versus Spirit, where Spirit was playing out of his mind. It didn't really matter.
And didn't help that Kuro played Yasuo.
Yeah, and I think that the Tigers at that point weren't actually used to losing as well because they were such a new team and they'd been winning everything. They hadn't really learned how to recover from a loss properly.
I would say my biggest call out for QG would be the Pekko Uzi. Which one's going to play?
Pekka.
And I think that has. I think that's going to be quite a bit. But
I think it's Pico, but
whatever.
Pico.
TNT. Fuck it. TNT.
Okay. TNT will play. I think Uzi will probably go with them, but I don't think Uzi will play any games.
Oh yeah, is this the same kind of Riot rules? You only get one sub.
Yeah,
I would believe so.
That's really dumb. So, yeah, I mean, I think for all the reasons you said, I could see SKT winning. Then again, I could see SKT losing simply because Swift could put Bengi in garbage bag.
Swift's a farm style jungler. He farms a lot these days. He farms for 20 minutes, then he bodies in team fights. That's not that's the kind of jungler Bengi loves to play against. What he hates to do is he hates to play against someone like Peanut. Who farms his own jungle and then farms him. Like, if you're farming, Bengi loves, like, it's the old, if you think about junglers in a triangle, you've got farmers, you've got warders, or supporters rather, and you've got counter junglers. Counter junglers beat farmers because they walk into their jungle and they kill them. Farmers beat, wrong way around. Counter junglers lose to farmers because they just walk into the jungle, the farmer's perfectly healthy. And if they counter jungler, like, it doesn't matter because the whole jungle is cleared out anyway.
That's important.
Counter junglers beat warders because warder spends too long warding, comes back, finds he hasn't got a jungle and he's dead because he's got one item, the other guy's got two, and the counter jungler should also gank a lot as well. Yeah, if properly played. But
and then the warders beat the farmer.
Warders beat a farmer because Bengi's map pressure will be too high for Spirit to simply sit there and farm for 20 minutes, especially when a lot of his lanes are outclassed as well.
Yeah.
So
also,
based on where they start standings, QG come into this as the favorite because they're unquestionably the #1 team in China right now. But I do think, and I don't think SKT are the 6th best team in Korea right now. I just think that no one knows who the 2nd best team is in Korea right now. So this is still realistically the 2nd best team in Korea versus the best team in China.
I also forgot that
second best team in Korea.
Bengi also got a little bit of a rescue with Gragas coming back. So
yeah, exactly. Like, he's back on Gragas now as well. He can still bring out the Lee Sin. The only champions he can't play are like Nidalee and Graves. We haven't even seen Graves in the jungle that much recently.
Graves,
I don't know why, he's still pretty good, but yeah, it's a lot less.
Well, I've seen most of the games you've seen him played, he's gone top lane.
Yeah. So
but yeah, I mean, I think I could see SKT beating QG. Again, it is just a best of one.
Yeah, it's just a best of one.
No, because that's right.
It's winners bracket right now, so.
But that's the thing as well. I think SKT will just be stronger in that that definitive opening game. They can just body them, and then I think QG could probably make a recovery for a game 2, and then SKT would win out game 3. But I just think in a best of one, like, SKT can just throw just a big punch their way, but they can't counteract it. You know what I mean? And the area QG are strong in, SKT aren't slouches in either.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you kind of put down the arguments I was going to have for QG. So yeah, we're going to talk about the playoffs then. So I guess this is kind of where we go into split worlds. We go into like multiple reality. So we all said SKT QG for Group B, right?
Going to.
And then we had me and Peter have RNG Origin, and Sam has Origin RNG, right?
It depends on who goes first.
Because they flip and play each other. So in me and Peter's world, we have
SKT.
RNG QG and Origin SKT, and you have SKT. Oh man, I kind of want to go to Sam's world. Those are not because I think it's going to happen, just because it's more fun games. Because I just watched QG RNG, and it's very good, but we're going to see it again most likely. As long as they keep their forms, we'll see it in the playoffs there. So Sam gets to see SKT RNG, QG Origin.
Yeah.
So let's start with Sam. Who's going to win those games, and who wins the finals?
So SKT versus RNG. So based on the fact that I don't even think RNG were capable of beating Origin, I don't think they're capable of beating SKT. I think Xiaogu would be more capable of beating SKT than RNG are. So in my world, it actually becomes so in my situation, it actually becomes an SKT versus QG final. So I actually think that QG would beat out Origin. So if you're kind of following this, basically what I'm saying is I think all the good teams are in Group B, or the 2 good teams in the tournament are in Group B, and all the other teams are kind of par for the course. I do think Origin and RNG are better than TSM and EVER, but bye for the bye. So
I mean, it doesn't make sense since Group B is all the #1 teams from last year.
Yeah.
So they kind of are, and they still are comparative to what's in Group A, better teams. So
why do I think RNG would lose to SKT? Just like RNG are looking worse and worse as it's gone on. They started really, really hot and then they kind of petered out a little bit. Looper is playing better now than he has. He never played that badly for M3. He just wasn't a carry top laner in a carry top lane meta. He had moments where he would go off and he would, carry on like a Hecarim or something like that. But he also had moments where he would like tower dive bizarrely and die. So like Chinese Air really did something to, because Looper before, as we knew him, was like quite a safe and calculated player. He laned like a bitch. And he sort of, was very passive in lane, and he would look to TP on other areas and make plays that way. He doesn't do that anymore. He does do it now more on RNG, but you kind of get the schizophrenic Looper. But either way, I always talk about individual matchups because I always think it's important. SKT are individually better than RNG in almost every single role. Including the jungler as well, because while MLXG is a talented Chinese up-and-coming jungler, Bengi's a proven veteran and not as bad as he sometimes looks. I think Bengi's lows look really bad because of his style of play. I mean, it's difficult to be relevant when you've got 1 item and a sightstone, and the other guy's got 3 items. You know what I mean? So how do I? And again, it's the Faker effect. You know what I mean? Like Faker historically does really well in international tournaments. Like he always shows up and he always puts on good games in international tournaments. And there's no he's by far and away the best mid laner at this tournament. There's no one that really sort of compares to him. Even it's not because the mid laners that would compare to him are like what Coco. Well, he's on Longzhu. There's no mid laner there that I'm like, oh yeah, Faker should be, worried about him, or he might have ability to stop him kind of carrying. There's none of that, I don't think. So I just don't think that it's the Faker effect, and then Bang as well is reliable enough that he matches up well with a lot of these with both the Chinese ADs that are attending. That he kind of he should be SKT should be able to stop Matt having it, because Matt is not as good as he was on Samsung White as well. I don't think he'll ever be that good again, because I don't think he cares enough to be that good. Well, that's a bit harsh. I don't know what his individual mentality is like. But this is a player who was talking about retiring if he didn't make it to the World Championships, and I didn't think he was lying at that point in time. This is also a player who's been punished by his own club for troll picking and troll playing in serious matches as well, kind of thing. Mentality-wise, Matt is not a shining stone. So I just think that again, it's the SKT are objectively could be the second best team in Korea, and it's difficult for us not to say they're not the second best team in Korea. So do I think that SKT are better than the second best Korean team, are better than the second best Chinese team? Yeah, of course they do. Historically they should absolutely trounce us, as it were. I think it's highly likely that SKT will win this entire tournament without dropping a game. So yeah, I can't see RNG even doing anything to SKT really. I think they have less opportunities to win than QG did, and I don't think QG are likely to win either versus SKT. I think QG could maybe take a game. I think RNG will get 2-0 straight off the bat, basically, and it will be fairly one-sided as well.
This is weird. Yeah, and then the other team.
Origin versus Xiaogu.
Xiaogu, yeah.
So if it was Origin versus EDG, or because I actually don't think RNG are even really the second best team in China right now. So if it was And again, Chinese League of Legends is even more confusing than Korean League of Legends if you want to try and rank the teams adequately, because they have two groups and whatnot. And Xiaogu have objectively had the easier group, but then they've also played against pretty much all the teams in the counterpart harder group. I just think Xiaogu are a more known quantity and look cleaner when they play League of Legends and don't throw away. They look less likely to kind of drop the ball and lose. So just based on the virtue that they're more consistent right now, they'll win. And then their team fighting as well is an edge they've got over Origin, because I don't think Origin's team fighting right now is particularly good. I think Origin's wins have kind of come out of them sort of like, again, it's like that win lane, win game mentality, but like they don't even look particularly good at snowballing out a lead as well. It's Origin are a very weird team right now, and are clinically underperforming, because at the start of the ULCS, everyone was saying Origin should be the people who, should be the team that will win the entire split. And right now they don't look like. Now they might be able to do that thing they normally do, where they cram it all in at last minute, and they're like the naughty kid that crams it all in 2 days before the exam and somehow gets an A every time. You know what I mean? That's. But yeah, I think V on QG is a bit of an underrated player. I mean, I don't think he's particularly amazing, but I never hear him talked about as one of the best top laners in China, whereas I think he's quite good. And then like Swift versus Amazing as well. Like Amazing's not as bad as people make out he is, but he's also not as good as people make out he is as well. He's a very polarizing player. Swift is a very reliable player and more reliable than Amazing is, and mechanically better than Amazing is as well. And then Power of Evil Steel seems to have issues synergizing with his team in a way that Doinby certainly doesn't. So again, it's not just a case of like on top lane, on mid lane, on jungle, blah blah blah. I just feel like QG's team fighting and their macro are better than Origins right now, and then there's not a noticeable enough gap in any lane individually for Origin to be able to snowball that particular position. So that's how I kind of see it working out.
And then the final?
SKT win. SKT win versus QG 3-1 at worst for SKT. If SKT were to drop a game, that would be the game they would drop.
Yeah.
I am pretty confident that SKT will go in and pick up momentum as the tournament goes on and look more and more dominant in every game they have, and basically clean sweep the tournament like we saw KT Bullets do. Because if you remember, KT Bullets 2 years ago at IEM, they nearly lost to IG in the first game they played against them. They went to like 5k down or something, and IG did a spectacular throw. And then since then, KT never let go, and they just kind of dominated.
They never lost a game anymore.
Yeah, but they didn't even get close to losing a game since then, really, except for that Gambit game where they had to backdoor. But again, they were able to backdoor down because they had such a huge advantage anyway, as it were. They just kept bizarrely picking it, and also Ryu was on Kassadin, and Ryu has never been able to play Kassadin well. So I think that SKT are a very. This will be SKT's reawakening, and I think this is a bit of a kind of advantage to them for going back into LCK, because I think if they win IEM, they can go into LCK with that confidence boost and then return to form in LCK. So that's how I kind of see it going down, basically. Which is why I was a little bit sad that SKT got the invite, because I would, as a part of me, would have seen
Rocks Tigers come in and just
I would have loved that.
I think you're saying you probably want to see Jin Air.
No, well, more see maybe Samsung or Longzhu, you know what I mean? See one of these teams that are less known quantity that would be less likely to show up in an international tournament, basically, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, the invites were.
So now we have to jump over to me and Peter's version, our world, World B.
The alternate universe.
We're the Team Mongooses, for anyone who gets that reference. So we have Origin playing SKT. So who do you think is going to win that one?
Yeah, straight
so,
2-0.
Okay, so moving on. Because that's pretty obvious. I mean, even at SKT's kind of weakest, they still
it's not like Origin looks great. So
they still were able to troll pick and win the kind of MSI/mini fake worlds on 2014. So
Year to All Stars. Yeah.
All Stars
All-Stars
Paris 2014. Yeah, that's right. They won it.
Well, to be honest,
They were
it
able
was
to-
pretty
they
similar
were able
format
to
as
troll.
MSI. The year
They
afterwards.
were able to troll
Mm.
picking their skins in one of the games.
First Fnatic.
So we have QG RNG. Did you recently watch the QG RNG?
I wanted to.
Okay.
I didn't get
I
to
think it was QG. one?
I think I looked up and I think RNG won.
Yeah, RNG won convincingly, actually.
Yeah, 2-0.
From what I remember,
Wait, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
they
I was
beat
also, I was
Uzi.
also
Yeah, they beat-
surprised.
they beat Pecco in the game 1, and then Uzi came in, and it was a lot less interesting.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, RNG gave QG the first. Yeah, I remember watching that. I remember kind of chucking down as one of those weird LPL flukes. That's right. So I kind of pushed out my memory. That means this has been a bit of a hole in my analysis this entire time.
Wow. So,
Wow.
oh man, yeah. Okay, MLXG went. Oh yeah, I remember that. MLXG went fucking crazy on Italy, and then Uzi came in and didn't do too much on that Callista pick, and they kind of got Kog'Maw corkied. Okay.
I still stand by the fact that I think even with that series there, I actually think that changes a lot. And I still stand by the statement that I think QG are a better team than RNG and are more capable of taking a game off SKT than RNG are. I just think QG had a weird kind of meltdown in that series.
I remember that second game. That was really close, actually. That second game had a couple team fights that went both ways. And then RNG were able to, I believe they picked up a Baron and were able to take it off of that. Well, I guess this is kind of a toss-up then. I kind of think QG may be able to get the win against RNG come the second time. They really had some pretty good team fighting, and I think they won't let the same picks go by. That game 2 looks really devastating pick-wise.
Yeah, we also
They let Nautilus, Graves, Corki, Kog'Maw, Braum.
What?
That was RNG's comp. And that was the closer game where QG actually had a couple team fights that went their way.
What the yeah, I think QG will probably be able to learn. I mean, the fact that they lost, I think, gives them an edge that they know how to deal with RNG if they have the rematch, that they know what the mistakes they've made, hopefully at least.
Yeah, I think I'll give it to QG. Remember how I remember that series, I think they had some really good team fights, and it really like that comp. It was pretty unbeatable. It should be unbeatable at a certain point. So I'll give it to QG. So same for you, or
yes, I will agree with that.
This is kind of our issue where we don't know as much. So we have SKT, QG in the finals. But
again,
well, apparently I'd pushed that whole series out of my mind as well. So publicly, I look a bit stupid right now.
That's the
Thankfully, the only people that watch this are the Bet365 CEO and a few pro players. So I'm sure they'll let it slide.
Also, Reginald does too, apparently.
Oh yeah, and a few team owners as well. And well,
all the people we said watched it today.
Yeah, Green watches it as well, and BDD.
Happy birthday.
But because we don't know exactly, RNG, QG, either of them able to conceivably beat SKT? In your mind, Peter?
I do not believe that.
So we all kind of have the same. SKT wins it all.
Actually, so I'm just having an internal monologue right now. Because in my alternate reality, QG and RNG never met, my head-to-head between them goes, and I would still stand by the fact that QG are a better overall team. I just think RNG kind of got the drop on them. That's right. Remember in this series now, it's all coming back. See, it's all coming back.
That second game was crazy.
You got to remember. Sometimes I forget all kinds of crucial information. I forget my name. I forget my gender. I forget all kinds of things. I forget what I look like. So these kind of things happen.
Yeah, you have like pictures like, oh, this is my selfie. Like, no,
yeah, well, that's not bad. So you just got to deal with my own momentary blocks of amnesia, and I'm taking pills to get over it now. So just got to go over that. Oh man, I'm killing it with the references today.
So yeah, is there anything else we said? Is there a champion either of you guys are looking at to break out, like see a breakout in the new? Because we have enough games where there may be like a small meta within itself.
Oh yeah, we forget the big issue that China hasn't even played on any of the patches they're gonna play on. Like they are so far behind in patches right now.
Really?
Yes, they are.
It's 4?
Yeah, but China has not been playing on those patches. Last patch they played on, I think, was 6.1 or 2 or something.
Wait, is that happening again?
Oh, wow, yeah.
I thought they fixed that.
No,
I forgot
they're
they told me.
week-
I heard that, and I see it now
Yeah,
in Sports Speed. It's like, yeah, China's
Week
super
4
far
was
behind for
6.1.
some reason.
Yeah, so at best they managed to make it to like 6.2 on week 5, which I don't think they managed that. So yeah, Jesus.
No, because last time this happened, they would stay on like old patches for a long ass time,
Yeah,
and
there
then
was-
just inexplicably skip like 4 of them, and go
Yes.
like. So you could imagine
This
them
is
going
what's
from
gonna
like
happen right now.
6.1 to 6.6.
There was that weird point in at the start of season 4 in the LPL where they were starting on the season 3 patch to start the season 4 of LPL off. So
Season 4 was a nightmare in general for patches in China. But I don't get why it happened again this year, because last year they were actually
They
pretty
gotta
good.
censor out all those
Yeah,
skulls, yo.
and there were moments where China was ahead in terms of the patches, like last year as well.
Last year they were pretty fucking good on the patches, and this year it's back to.
It's one of those as well where you want to knee jerk like blame Riot for it. It's actually Tencent that causing that.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
actually
yeah, I know
Tencent
it's
that are
Tencent,
failing to
but-
roll out patches. So like it's just
You know
one of
what
them
the
Chinese
true
things.
issue
Isn't it?
is Tencent can't figure out what they need to rename Duskblade of Drakthar.
Yeah, they're like English. How do you translate this to fucking Chinese? It's impossible.
That's the big issue. They've been spending 2 weeks on figuring out what they should translate it to.
Jesus.
So anything else to say about this tournament? Because I just have a couple issues with the format. Because I always have issues with every
Yeah,
format.
but the format isn't.
Because I am unable to be pleased.
I will say that I think Fnatic kind of got an unlucky group in the sense that they swapped their group with Origins, and they actually probably could have got out of the group in the same way that Origin did get out of theirs. Because I think the two teams are roughly equal right now, maybe a very slight edge to Fnatic.
Fnatic should, yeah.
So it's one of them where Fnatic kind of, because Fnatic are getting a lot worse in this tournament than they actually probably are. But then it's an eight 2 group stages, 18 tournaments, so can't be too harsh on them realistically. There's always some group stage fuckery that goes on.
Therein lies my issue, is
And
that
it is also the same
because we have so infrequent like international events, is that I think they're really missing the chance for the Fnatic TSM rivalry to kind of become a thing. Is we're missing the opportunity there.
You
I think
rather
that's
had
kind of
one
a shame.
group of 8, or you mean we were talking about format? So
in an ideal world, how would you have done the format for this event, John? Go.
If I had infinite time, I would do one group. With the way it is, I would do, instead of having best of 1s, I'd do best of 3s and run them simultaneously. Run Group A once, run Group B.
So you'd have a round robin best of 3, and then have teams get out and be seeded based on how many points they manage to occur in a round robin best of 3.
No, I think I'd still do the groups.
Yeah, I think groups.
I guess I would no, because they are seeded based on, I guess, because they won.
I mean, if you were going to do it one group and you wanted to do it best of 3, you just do a round robin of where every team plays every team once on simultaneous streams, and then so like the team that managed to come top would play in the quarterfinals the team that came 8th in the in the group, and then 2nd and 7th, 3rd and 6th, 4th and 5th. That's how you would
have
that'd
a
probably
group
be the best.
and then quarterfinals instead of just going to semis.
Oh, I suppose you could just do it straight.
That'd probably be
to
the best, but they would have to have a 4th day.
Yeah, I suppose if you wanted to do it just semis, you could have it like first place 4th, second place 3rd, and everyone plays everyone in a best of 3 round robin.
My thought was I was going to switch CLG or TSM, but you kind of can't because Origin and CLG are both winners, or both like winner and runner up. They already played each other at San Jose, so you obviously I can see where they got their bracket from. With their setup, I'd rather have the streams going simultaneously. I mean, there are enough casters in League of Legends that if you don't have LCS playing, you've got, what is that, 13 or 14 casters?
They can get OGN casters though, because they have to work at the same time.
Well, Monty's going. Monty's
going.
But
the other one, the other 2.
Oh yeah, the other 2.
I mean, even without them, you have enough casters,
to be fair,
NA and EU, to be able to run 2 streams, and instead of having best of 1s in the beginning, because honestly, you could. I mean, yeah, we might only see one team play 3 games, but it's only one more than they would have beforehand.
To be
But I
fair,
would rather see two best of 3 through the whole.
to be
group
fair,
phase.
objectively as well, like there are enough casters attending the actual event that if you did dual casts, like I mean, you would assume that a caster would be able to cast 2 best of 3s in a day. That wouldn't seem too unreasonable.
That's what
So-
you do in OGN, dude.
Yeah,
It's not
so
possible.
if a caster can cast 2 best of 3s in a day, then there should really be enough casters to do each one cast one best of 3 twice. And then there, that would probably work out mathematically. I'd have to run the maths on it. Obviously, I'm not going to bother doing that because I've got better things to do in my life, like be on the show. But
That's another part. I mean, with the fact it's a 3-day schedule, it makes it really hard to do the best of 3s the whole time. And the final day, both semifinalists play, and then there's the finals. And that's a real tight turnaround for the second team to the second team to play semifinals. If they go to 3 games, they could be playing up to 8 games within 9 hours of them.
Yeah.
I think if they had 4 games, they could do best of 3. Or 4 days, they could do best of 3.
could best do best of 2 round robin. That would limit the number of games.
If it was round robin, best of 1 would be fine.
Yeah, I suppose that's true as well.
I mean, you
Nice.
have 7 games.
Hmm.
I think with best of round robin, best of 1 would be
Yeah,
fine.
round robin, best
7
of 1.
games.
Every team's in a group.
Because
They all-
at least you get to see all of them play. I mean, that's the one thing is the issue is I would love to see TSM and Origin play against QG and SKT, see how they play. I'd love to see Fnatic and CLG play. I mean, even though it's ever, I'd still love to be able to see all these different teams. We have such a dearth of international events that when you do have them, you kind of feel a bit cheated because, like, what happens if only Korea and China move on? Okay,
The
we
only-
get some games.
The only international tournament you ever feel properly satisfied with is Worlds, and even then you kind of feel a bit,
Yeah.
like not satisfied with. So you
Like
never,
last-
you never get your fill of international competition watching League of Legends. Like you never feel like I sometimes think when I look at like CS:GO for example, I sometimes think, well, is there a saturation there? Is there too many majors? It's the opposite problem in League of Legends. There's definitely not enough. I think anyone can say because if they're going to have this like 3 tournament a year system, they really need to have these tournaments go on for longer and have more games played. Like
Yeah. That's is the LCS is 4 days. So the fact that this is like, oh, hey, it starts Friday is a bit of an issue in itself. The fact that they have 3 series that are all best of 1s, and I believe they're all day 1. No, Group L. So they do all of Group A, all of Group B, and then finals. That's kind of weird too.
Yeah,
That kind of screws Group B up a bit for You could finish losers lower bracket Group B, which is a best of 3, and then have to play the semifinal 1 less than 9. What is that? 9 hours? Yeah, about 9-10 hours. So it's pretty crazy. I am very surprised it's not 4 days, but
well, it's only open
just-
for 3 days.
anything but this. Not but this, but there's just I don't know. It's just so frustrating to have such a limit. Is that I really would love to see Fnatic play TSM. Both teams are at the very similar story points. Is that they thought they were going to be good. They had some new players coming in. Fnatic clearly took a step back from where they were. Obviously, TSM were supposed to be taking a step forward. Both have had issues. It would be very nice to see them play and see a storyline kind of come out of that. I mean, the article itself, the article writes itself right there.
And it would also be
play
like
a best of 3.
it'd also be Yellow Star versus an old team as well,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah.
And you have
Yes.
the creation NA super team versus what was the best EU team, best Western team last year.
And then
Now having trouble. It just I don't know. It just
and you'd
there's
also
so many
have
fucking things I wish I could see.
you'd also have the delicious salt reaction, whichever way that best of 1 would go as well.
True.
Because no matter who wins, I
Salt.
win.
Because salt.
No matter who wins, people that read Reddit and lick a salt lick win.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. It's we get 8 teams showing up, but in reality, you only see maybe 6 teams actually have a real tournament. Not even, maybe 4 teams. It doesn't feel like a true event, even though this is probably one of the better ones, in that there's not really a single team I can look at and kind of snub my nose at. The invited teams, obviously you want Fnatic and TSM, the 2 bigger ones from the Western regions. You want the winners of the tournament, and you wanted at the time they were the #1 team in China of RNG. So
yeah,
it's weird.
Sense. No, you are right in the sense that it never feels quite enough. Like this feels like quite a short tournament overall. Like it's one of those like
it's only 3 days. No?
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those where I don't even think I'm going to get my proper like. So when I remember, when I used to watch like StarCraft 2 big tournaments, and then even when like in season 2 when I was watching League of Legends tournaments, like I'd spend like 12 hours a day, 3 days watching esports kind of thing. Like the entire day would be consumed by watching esports happen, and like sometimes so many StarCraft tournaments went up like 16 hours of the day. Like it was exhausting, but it was it was satisfying. Like you felt full at the end of it, kind of thing. With this,
even with this, you have LOL Esports puts up the VODs real quick. There's LOL Event VODs that put up the VODs real quick, and I believe there's a second YouTube channel that puts up the VODs like really fast. So even if you had a multi-stream, you wouldn't really have to miss any of the action because you could just watch them.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand the constant need that every game has to be played. Like
that is changed. That is, to be fair, that is changing next summer because they are running simultaneously streams. In
I
the
understand,
LCS.
but it's just like I just don't understand why they can't do it now and we can enjoy more games.
Yeah,
I think for IEM right now, it's a problem is they don't have enough room to actually play.
They just need 10 computers in a box and just have them play off stage.
Yeah,
you
but
can have the casters cast from a green
it's
room.
not that's only League of Legends that's getting played at the IEM, so they have a lot of other games that they need to broadcast. So.
I do think this will be I do think this will be a good tournament overall. I just think that there'll be just moments where I'll be like, I could have just done with a bit more of this. It'll be like it'll be like when you go to a meal, go out for a meal, you go to a nice restaurant, you eat the meal, it's perfectly nice. You eat dessert, and then at the end of it, you go, I'm a bit hungry. Do you want to get some fast food on the way home? Yeah, all right, we'll do that then. Be a bit like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's annoying sometimes.
Well, thankfully, we have some Korean games playing, except only one day is good.
We do have 3 days of Korean League of Legends as well.
Yeah,
Korea always delivers.
Thursday.
Korea always delivers. I love that Korea is the only region that's not taking a week off for IEM World Championships. Like, even with a team going, they're like, no, we're just going to carry on playing.
Who gives a shit?
I mean, technically they have 2 halves of the split. They're like, we don't give a shit. We're just going to carry on playing.
I mean, they have so many games that they have to play. They can't take a break.
I love also that Korea is the only region that puts a limit on when people can do roster swaps as well. So, like in LCS,
China.
Does China do that?
I believe China doesn't allow trades. So technically, that may not be correct. They could drop a player.
No, because
hand him a bag of money and have him walk across the street to the other team, and have him hand the bag of money to the other team.
No, because Tom left Snake and joined Chao. Tom was bought by Chao Gu away from Snake.
Okay.
And although they haven't played Tom, so they just put it into dispute. But what I mean is CJ have signed CJ signed Daydream, but they're not allowed to use him until the second half of the split. Because of the roster swap. You can't do that in LCS. They sub out players all the fucking time. Players on challenger teams, like.
Yeah, there was a joke that someone from Esportspedia did, where they combined Seraph and his picture, like his Seraph. You're supposed to have like the image of the team he plays for, and they combined Echo Fox, TDK, and Renegades into one picture.
Yeah, but the whole sub thing from challenger scene and NA right now is stupid as fuck. Because they do
it.
It's almost like there was an issue with visas that if that didn't come up, would never have been an issue. Oh,
wait, no. Well, no, because to be fair, like
he's watching right now.
But to be fair, Renegades used Seraph in their most recent week of matches, and TDK used Crumbs in their most recent week of matches. So there was clearly some kind of like, I don't want to say collusion, but it was clear like, well, if you lend us a player, then we'll lend you a player. All right, deal.
All I'm saying is that for the teams that matter,
it's just stupid that one player can just every week switch teams just because he's playing in Challenger right now. Officially Challenger, he can get landed every fucking game.
It's also
Hey.
it's also worrying that Weldon Green can work with 6 out of the 10 LCS teams and have intimate knowledge of all of their operations. Like,
I think that's a bit bigger the issue. I mean, if Seraph can come onto Renegades and get them to get Dignitas to be relegated, fucking God bless. I'll take whatever issues. The bigger issue is that you literally have someone who's known as a sports psychologist who has knowledge of 6 teams. Like, is he just going around and going, okay, so they paid me $100,000 and not say anything about their secrets. How about you pay $125,000 and I do? And then he walks to the next team and he just continues to do it until he gets back to the first team and goes, hey, so now it's $800,000.
yeah, it just keeps going up and up and up. Yeah.
When does he have to actually get off?
Yeah, it's a lot of power for one man. He could be a supervillain of esports.
Yeah, I'm
quickly.
also thinking it's gonna at some point. Well, it's just gonna.
He'd be a supervillain if like he actually got his teams to win.
Yeah.
Alright.
So anything else? Or are we good?
I'm good. So,
TDK play in a couple of days. They play their important semi-final in the challenger scene. So any fans of OQ should cheer for OQ in that, because if they don't win that, they don't get into the NACS. They don't get to NA. They don't even get to the promotion tournament.
well, if they
Oh,
lose, they
he
still have
shows
to lose
good
bracket,
games.
Do they?
Semifinals though. It's best 3 teams, so they have to. No, they normally drop to the 3rd place match.
Mm-mm. It's the best 2. It's the best 2 teams.
I apologize.
For the 4th place from 2015 summer playoff.
Don't worry, man. They're gonna be 12 teams
Oh, yeah.
franchising.
2
TDK will get in.
Well, we don't know that yet.
from NACS spring qualifiers.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Never mind. I don't get it. Okay. We gotta cheer for him and he'll show good games.
Yeah. I think that's the end of the show.
Bye. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Enjoy.
Okay.